Our first agenda is the Beck property, a public hearing for the proposed development along Center Street on both sides of Route 27, which is Ridge Road. We will be discussing this tonight. There will be no decision made this evening. This is a discussion, and we will again have a combined workshop with the council and the Planning Commission on April the 7th, where your concerns will be discussed. I will ask that the procedure for the hearing is you have all signed in. Those of you that want to speak, well, everybody's signed in. We do have a speaking roster. Can I please have the sign-in sheet? I need to see.
Still being filled out.
Well, we need it up here because I need to start to call these people.
Okay.
So, start a second sheet, please. Start a second sheet. You will have 2 minutes to do your decision. To make your statement. I'm going to tell you, please try. I know that everybody probably has the same concerns, the same questions. I'm going to ask you to try, if someone has already said what you were going to say, unless you're going to say anything different, please try not to waste the time when someone else could come up. When you come up, you will be recognized. Do not start speaking from your chair. Come up to the podium, state your name and your address. Get started, I'd also like to remind everyone, we do have all 5 of our council members here. They're hiding in the corner. They've made room for as many people to sit as possible, so they're here on the sidelines. But all 5 of your council members are here this evening. Seeing none, we will start. I'm going to ask that the project manager, the architect, whatever, engineer, Ron, we see him every week here, kind of give a brief overview of what we're going to be looking at. There's 2 parcels to this property called Beck West and Beck East. We're going to Beck West first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ron Thompson from Van Mar Associates. I'm here tonight with Craig Kazanjian from the Kaz Brothers, the developer of the project. As Roxanne had mentioned, we did hold a shred 2 weeks ago, which is...
I'm sorry, sir, we can't, this is as loud as we can get it.
Which is, how about that, there. Which is followed by the public hearing tonight. That's followed by, as the chairperson has said, a workshop between Planning Commission, Town Council, staff, and the developer to discuss comments received. After that, there is then again a joint public hearing with the Town Council and Planning Commission to receive further comments, and then followed by a decision by the Town Council. That decision essentially begins the planning and design process for this. Tonight, what we have done on the pre-concept sketch plan is it provides a preliminary layout of the subdivision, density, location of residential units, commercial units, street pattern for review. When we move to a concept subdivision site plan stage, that's when we begin to study the stormwater management in detail. Traffic studies are completed as required by the town, and again, the traffic study would be a joint state highway, town of Mount Airy traffic study. There is a pattern book that is prepared that looks at the architectural elements of the project, particularly the commercial along Center Street. And then we would look at site architecture as well as an application. Now, there was a downtown vision plan that was prepared and accepted by the the town. And it created a village center within the Beck West property. It had completion of Center Street. It showed Beck Drive connection, commercial development along Center Street and adjacent to Route 27, family homes adjacent to the existing residential neighborhoods within the town of Mount Airy. We've got townhomes around the village green. The plan being proposed is actually very similar to what was in the vision plan that proposes 32 single-family homes, 54 townhomes, and 150 multifamily apartments in 3 buildings. And again, it has a village green as part of it.
Can you repeat those numbers again?
32 single-family, 54 townhomes, and 150 apartment multifamily units in 3 of the buildings. Those 3 buildings are located up near near Route 27 and the Ridge Swim Club.
You said the 3 other buildings. Is that what you said? Oh, I thought it was on. Sorry. Okay. So, did you say 3 other buildings? Are those the?
No, there are only 3 apartment buildings.
Okay. Oh, the 3 apartment buildings. Okay. How about the commercial component?
Commercial split in a variety. There's approximately 82,000 square feet of commercial office retail, restaurant. We're proposing up to a 40,000 square foot small grocery store. They can be less depending upon the vendor that would be put in there. So we had 122,000 square feet. We're showing 122,000 square feet of commercial space. We also have a 2-acre municipal civic parcel for a future municipal building of up to, I'm showing on the plan, a 10,000 square foot building. That's summarized.
Thank you, Ron. Those people that want to speak to this is kind of going to be hard. If you'd like to speak, I'd like you to start. How many people in here would like to speak to this? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. If you would please start the line right there so I can see. Anyone in the back that wants to speak, please start the line here at the front, but the end of the building, the end of the room, please, into the hallway.
Can I ask a question of Ron?
Yeah.
Are you going to talk about the east side too? Or
I
is
think
this just
we
about the
wanted to
west side?
receive comments on Beck West,
Okay.
And then,
and
what are the
then we would
next?
go to Beck East. If you'd like, I can
I
summarize
just
that.
wanted to.
Now, I think that's easier if we do Beck West and then Beck East. Ma'am, since you're the closest to the microphone, state your name and where you live, please.
Elaine Orient, 614 Cedarbrook Court. I just have,
You need to speak louder.
okay. Do I need to repeat that?
We're being taped or recorded.
Elaine Orient, 614 Cedarbrook Court. I have just a couple questions and comments about this, and it relates to all the properties that are coming down the pike. This, the east and west, the other one in town, future ones. This is a lot of high density housing that's really an explosion of, additional apartments, townhomes, a few single family homes. And I don't see anything about senior housing in any of it. And I think that's something that should be reconsidered. I'm new to Mount Airy, so, I don't know if that was taken off the plate, but the senior housing, they pay taxes. They don't add a lot of traffic, which I know from the last meeting, traffic was talked about as a big issue. There's only maybe one or maybe sometimes even none or 2 cars in senior households versus, I know we talked about some of these garages would have 2 and there'd be spaces for 2, you know, in the driveway. And, you know, there was talk of a lot of parking, a lot of traffic issues. And seniors don't speed, you know, nearly as much as, you know, if you have a lot of teenagers with these cars or whatever. I just think it'd be a lot less of a drain on the schools. They don't add to the schools. That was another issue last time. What's going to happen to all the schools and the school buses and the teachers that might be needed? They also, I think, are less of a drain on the police force. You know, there's not as much traffic, you know, stops or domestic violence or whatever. So I think senior housing should be reconsidered for all the properties, because from what I've heard, I don't know.
You have 15 more seconds, I'm sorry.
2 more seconds. Then the talk of a grocery store. We have 3 grocery stores. I've never seen a line in any of the grocery stores. I think what we need is something like a CVS relocation where they have a drive-through pharmacy and maybe a minute clinic, because the drive-through pharmacy would really help families, people.
Thank you. I'm sorry I have to be so nasty, but we have a lot of people. I want everybody to speak.
Good evening. My name is Ralph Ginn. I'm a resident of the Nottingham community on off of Watersville Road. I have 3 quick points. I also have a point later with regard to Beck East that relates to Beck West.
Sir, your address?
2510 Kings Forest Trail.
Thank you.
Inside Nottingham. My first comment has to deal with water. My second comment has to deal with sewage, and the third has to do with prudent planning and phasing of any approved project. The town ordinance 9861 for mixed-use development in a mixed-use district requires that any pre-concept layout plan include, quote, the appropriate water and sewer allocations that the development will require, if any. Referencing the 2019 Carroll County Water and Sewer Master Plan, it states that for the Mount Airy Water Service Area that, quote, with current water appropriations, and this is data from 2015-2016, 6 years ago, that with the current water appropriations, the town will need to identify an additional 262,000 gallons per day to meet future water demand needs. And at that time, these developments weren't on the table. So 262,000 additional gallons per day. So my point is, it's not apparent in the pre-concept layout plan as to any designs with regard to water appropriations. My next point is referring to the town ordinance I just shared. The developer's plan showing sewage appropriation doesn't exist either. And again, going back to the study by the county in 2019, it states,
you have 15 seconds left.
It states our single wastewater treatment plant is operating at 60% capacity. Our adequate public facility ordinance does not allow any new development to take us beyond 80% capacity. The additional 706 dwellings will take our equivalent dwelling units up to 82% of the current capacity. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I hate having to do that, but I want everybody to talk.
Sheila Pyatt, 705 Park Avenue. I'm just going to read mine. I was absolutely appalled when I was seeing and hearing that the Planning Commission was planning on allowing the developer to extend Beck Drive to Park Avenue. Beck Drive is a small road with private homes and a small group of townhouses, and is also the entrance to the Ridge Swim Club. If this road is extended, it will become a raceway with heavy traffic coming onto Park Avenue, which does not even align with Marydale Boulevard. Roxy, your house is right next to Beck Drive. Are you happy with this design? Will the town be planning to put a traffic light at the end of Beck Drive? I doubt it. We have a senior complex that uses Marydale Boulevard to make right turns onto Park Avenue to get to the shopping center. The town had the same idea when they extended Rising Ridge Road to go through a new housing development. And after much high-speed driving and complaints from the residents, it is now fenced off. I know this is what will happen to Beck Drive. After speaking to residents, no one is happy with the thought that extending Beck Drive is a great idea. Waiving the 10% open space condition, which makes this already dense development even more so, sets a bad precedent for future development. Every new development, especially one of this magnitude, needs some parks facilities. So roughly 50 more houses are crammed into an already overcrowded development. Let's face it, the planner and developer have only one goal, and that is to tell the Planning Commission what a wonderful idea this is and have this development build. Actually, when I
15
look at this
seconds left.
plan, I am not impressed with the plan. When this project is finished, we the people will have a mess that has been created. I have one question to the engineer and the developer. What are you going to be doing to Route 27 to expand for all the traffic that's going to be coming on?
I think, okay, keep that question. We'll answer that question later.
My name is Mark Richards, 1002 North Main Street, Mount Airy. I'm a retired firefighter from Howard County with 39 years on the job. I retired as an assistant chief. I have subdivision review experience in my role at the fire marshal's office. I have several significant concerns. Number one, street width is provided at 35 feet. Is parking allowed? If so, on what areas? A 100-foot ladder truck with 8-foot outriggers, if parking is allowed on a 35-foot street, is not going to work. The fire department of Mount Airy is 100% volunteer with the exception of the ambulance. I have friends up there. That's not a knock on them. It's just reality. Today, Lisbon's ambulance was in Mount Airy because Mount Airy's ambulance was already committed on a call. That happens on a regular basis. I'm estimating if each occupancy has 2 vehicles as an average, that's 2,940 additional vehicles trying to get out on 27, which already backs up from Watersville Road to Center Street every evening. Is the anticipated state upgrade of Route 27 known? Does anybody in this room know it? Go see for yourselves. 5 o'clock, go down into Watkins Park and see how traffic backs up. What are we going to do with
15 seconds left.
2,940 additional vehicles? Also want to make the statement that the traffic light at Center Street and Main Street in Mount Airy is going to create gridlock in Mount Airy and change the character of our downtown forever. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm John Bordeaux. I'm 708 South Main Street. I have personally been very excited for the expansion of the connection of Center Street. I thought it would be a really cool way to enhance the town. I was there at all the vision planning meetings. And I said it last meeting, and I'll say it again, that this is extraordinarily disappointing compared to the ideas and visions that were going around. I know last meeting they said that those plans didn't match up to reality because of parking, but it goes beyond that. We have a grocery store in this plan instead of a community center, which people were really excited about, bringing something like that into town. There's no reason that couldn't be a community center. We have a drive-through that will be destroying half of the Rails to Trails path there. It's not on the path, but it will absolutely destroy the feel at the end of the path. Instead of open area, we have massive parking lots just all over the place. In the vision plan, it was pretty clear that the town wanted really big green areas around
Excuse
all the
me,
business.
I'm sorry. If that's a cell phone, could someone please silent it? We need to have it silenced. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Yeah, so, sorry. No, it's fine. No, I mean, when you look at this map, imagine all of those, you know, those 4 or 5 businesses that they have there with a big green patio out back, with green space going from the back of those buildings all the way to the trail. That way those who are walking the trail have nothing, you know, see picnic tables and green space instead of parking lots and trash cans and trash just being flung out of people's windows as they speed in and out of those parking lots. I really do think there is potential in the connection here. Honestly, I am excited for the economic diversity that apartment and townhouses bring. I think this is a bit insane of how much they crammed in there, but I am excited about that. But I'm really disappointed at
15
just
seconds.
how they didn't, the vision of what the people in Mount Airy wanted just wasn't there. It's just too much parking space, not enough green, and really isn't
Time.
the feel that I think people want here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Ron Sykes, 202 Park Avenue. And a couple quick things. One is that as a former project manager of multi-million-dollar, multi-year projects,
You have to
as
speak
a
louder,
former
please.
manager of multi-million-dollar, multi-year projects, I would recommend that we look at a phased approach to this. And once we get the infrastructure and roads developed, or at least planned well, maybe we ought to take a look at developing the west side first to connect Center to 27 and see how that goes, and then go to the east instead of trying to do all at once. I think that the bigger the project, the more chance you're going to have a failure and unexpected costs and things like that. The second thing is, just to expand on a prior person, the intersection at Park back in Marydale really needs to be reassessed. It's already kind of a mess now. Traffic backs up on Beck already. If you add a connection to Center Street from there, you're going to need to at least move the stop sign back from Marydale to the other side of Beck and rethink that whole intersection, as well as some of the other intersections on Park Avenue. So Lookout, Cross Street, those would need to be relooked at because now you're going to have a lot more trucks and cars going through. Lookout is already kind of a pain, get a lot of backup there. Cross Street is a small intersection, so really need to look at those intersections coming off of Park. Just really quickly, I think that the benefit to the town by developing the west first, where you're going to have the commercial side and some more green space, is going to be more beneficial to the downtown area and contribute to the downtown feeling if we develop that first, as opposed to the east side, which is only going to be connected through an intersection across 27, and possibly, as we discussed last time, a pedestrian
15
bridge.
seconds left.
So that's it, just a couple of suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Joe Consul, 1708 South Main Street. I've lived there for about 30 years. And I bought a half acre out further than I wanted to be from work in order to have lots of space and grow a garden and things like that. Well, a few years ago, we put a lot of effort and some money into planting a garden, and there was a water shortage and we weren't allowed to use water outside. So the garden withered, and my effort and time was wasted. The buying of a half acre was for the purpose of being able to put in that garden. That's why I moved to Mount Airy. And so that could happen again if we don't have adequate planning for the water. Don't think that it won't happen. And so from my yard, during the wintertime when there's no leaves on the tree, I can see down the hill where the Superfresh grocery store used to be, which sat empty for several years before the health facility that's there now was put in. So if we needed another grocery store, maybe someone would have already put it in when they had the chance. That's all.
Thank you.
Lee Higwood, 1808 South Main Street. Kind of to go on what a couple other people said with staging this out in different, steps, not all at the same time. One concern I have is with Center Street, if the developer is going to be, putting that through first, or is that going to be happening all at the same time as everything else? I just wouldn't like to see, everything start to be built except for the road through there, and then the town gets stuck with the cost of putting that street through after the fact or something like that. So it'd be nice to be able to utilize Center Street if it's put in the right way and all the traffic is figured out, and if we put a roundabout or something and stop signs to manage the flow the right way. I think that that could be good to have go through there, but we're still looking at several years out before, as far as I understand, that this could be put into place. So, maybe if something gets passed with this, it'd be kind of nice to have Center Street put through, first, or before a lot of other development goes through. It might help with, value adding to this whole situation with what's going on. I was mostly wanting to talk and have some questions about the rezoning down on South Main Street, but if we're going to talk about that later, I'll just...
Yes, we will be talking about that in the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, yeah.
Mary Uzo, 3169 Caveat Court. I'm just really upset about this whole density thing, not thinking about the kids. I don't know what we're getting from the developer for the kids. I don't see any ball fields. I don't see anything like that for that. And again, the schools, I know you still have to go to the school board, but it's going to end up being some of the other neighborhoods getting redistricted, I'm sure, because we just can't take 700 and some new houses and not move kids further down county. Closest middle school now would be Sykesville. Closest elementary is Winfield. That's a real burden on some of the neighborhoods. So I'd like to see some more things for the kids. I know there was a talk of down Lashire, and I probably shouldn't be saying it, but 80 acres of parkland there. I don't know if that's still in the
But that's another whole
I know,
issue.
but I think you need to look at all the possibilities before you jump on approving anything like this. The
But
impact-
Harrison, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm taking up your time.
No, go ahead. No.
Harrison Lashire is not even it's not annexed into the town. It's not even part of the town.
I know, but that's
Okay.
up for future development too, and what's that gonna be? I know there's supposed to be parkland there, but if that ever happens, but there's nothing more for the kids or the community in these. We don't need another grocery store. So just take that into account.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Richard Chinnick. I live at 907 Parade. My thing I would like to see is the proof that there's supply of water and have it available before any further discussions of this big a development.
Is there anyone else that wants to speak on Beck West? Okay, we'll move on to Beck East. Ron, you want to kind of give us an overview of Beck East?
Beck East continues the vision of a residential community. We do have a village green and open space. It also includes the extension of Century Drive from its current terminus near self-storage over to Route 27 as a collector roadway. We have a bike path along that portion of Century Drive. Development on this side would include 103 single-family units and 370 townhomes. Throughout the entire project, our density is 8 units per acre, which is, we're slightly under that, which is allowed in the MXD is 8 units per acre.
Elected to do the horizontal directional drill. We did some
Has any thought been given to that since the last meeting, or?
We're receiving comments in order to go to a workshop.
We'll discuss it at the workshop.
Okay. And that'll be on town Facebook page and all that stuff when that comes to be. All right. And where was the village green here? Is that the big green spot in the middle? That wasn't going to be water management area?
That's correct.
Okay.
It's about 3 acres.
Okay.
I believe 3.5.
That's all I had.
Once again, from an emergency services perspective, if you look at the townhouses, the way they're laid out, if somebody decides to throw a block party, there is no parking anywhere accessible on any of those streets. So people are going to be blocking up the road, limiting access for emergency vehicles. It's just a recipe for disaster back there. The other thing I might note, and my family's not necessarily impacted by this, but in some of the conversations we had back here, daycare is in extremely short supply in Mount Airy. Somebody said there was a 6-month waiting period to get their child into daycare. Where is a development like this going to help out with the children who move in and increase the burden on daycare? Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak on East, sorry.
Lee Hagewood, 1808 South Main Street. One concern or one kind of thing that I'd like to see with this is what kind of community enrichment does this have? Is there going to be any pools? Like, what kind of green space is that going to be, like, wherever it ends up being? I know this isn't like the final plan. There's a lot of other things that have to be worked out with, the terrain of everything and water management and all that. But in this plan, as I've seen it presented, besides, maybe the bike path that goes around, I'm not really seeing much of, like a lot of other features. It'd be nice to have, with all the burden of having all these houses and all the traffic and all that, having a little bit more things that would contribute to the community. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Again, my name is Dick Shinnick. I'm 907 Parade Lane. My concern is in the morning, when those people all decide to go to work, 27 can't handle it. It's just going to be one rat race. And I'd like to see the water put in place before any of that larger residential development was put in place.
Anyone else? No one else? Does the Planning Commission have any comments? You had a question.
I'll start with the question about the east side seems to be all residential, even though it's classified as mixed use on your pre-concept plan.
We view Beck property consists of a combination of east and west, and therefore as one property.
But it's clearly not. It's got two tax parcel ID numbers. It's on opposite sides of Route 27. It's clearly not one property. It's two properties.
I can only state not to debate, we view it as one property by one owner.
Okay. So there's no commercial.
At this time, there's no commercial on Beck East.
And can you speak to some of the questions, like is there going to be a community center or anything on that property that the actual public who don't live there can use?
I think a lot of the questions that you're asking really pertain to a workshop type of, I don't have.
You don't know. I mean, some people here who are here won't be able to come to the workshop.
But again, what the workshop is for is to take, for the town council members, the planning commission, along with the developer and team and town staff, to take the comments and see what needs to be incorporated into a final pre-sketch concept plan.
And I just have one more question, because I was up there the other day, climbed up there on my way home from Weiss. So all those trees that back up to Home Goods, they're all going to be cut down? Lots and lots of birds back there.
Thank you.
Do you have an answer? Is that a yes? They are going to all be cut down?
Under this plan, yes.
Craig? Anyone else? I personally like to see some commercial on that side as well, on where all the houses are. That was kind of, I think, the way all of us were thinking, that there would be some sort of village center, something there for commercial as well. There was one other question we had earlier, and I was too busy timing and writing down, and I said we'd answer the question later. Can you remember who it was? I'm sorry. Yes?
I believe it was me. I asked, what is the engineer, developer going to do to improve the traffic on 27? Because for sure,
Okay.
the state is not going to do it.
Okay, I'm sorry. I should have had you up there, but that's okay. The question was the developer or anybody going to do anything about improvement to 27, because obviously the state is not going to do anything. I know that we are in contact with the state. Lynn Galletti, are you here? Can you speak to, have we talked to the state? She's a council member. I'm trying to. Well.
So what I got from the town administrator for streets and roads is there is going to be, finally, we've been asking for 2019, so 3 years for a new traffic study for 27, because our concern is also not just the volume of traffic, but the speed, high rate of speed at which people are hitting South Main to North Main and basically coming through town. So It is in the works to get us a new study. I also can tell you we've gotten on the radar of Carroll County as far as their priority list. So each county goes to the state to get on their priority list of projects they want to do. We have gotten on their radar finally after 3 years. So fingers crossed. They hear us, they're hearing us, we're still making ourselves heard. And I think we just need to keep letting them know we're still here, and something does need to be done about 27. But yes, we have gotten on the radar of the state of Maryland for traffic studies and looking at that issue of traffic on 27.
Okay, thank you. And it would help as citizens of the town of Mount Airy, you voice your concerns to the county and to the state as well. The more people that voice that concern, the more likely they are to consider something is going on and we do need to do something there.
Can I ask just a clarification question based on the topic that was discussed?
Sure, but you have to come up here.
Tim Gaydosh, 1304 Whitetail Court. So if I think what I heard, I think, is that 2 to 3 years to get on the map to get a traffic study done, and this is already in place. Yeah. Right? That's what we heard. Yeah. I want to make sure I understand that. So, okay, thank you. So just clarification. Thank you. And we'll have more opportunities for Q&A at the future meetings.
Yes, yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you can also email your questions or concerns, and we'll bring them up at the workshop. We just don't have public participation. You can also sit here and watch us do the workshop. We just don't ask for public input. Yes, ma'am.
So again about that, Mary Uzo, you're saying you can go ahead with approving all this without the highway getting expanded?
Part of your approval? No.
No. There is, the next phase of the project requires a traffic study to be completed.
So if they won't do it for another 3 years.
And the state highway will determine the scope of work for the traffic study that will then look at what are the traffic needs for the development.
So you'll have their approval before you approve this?
But not the construction.
Right.
Is there a commitment? I'm sorry.
So you're saying 2 to 3 years to get this far already, and we don't even have a study in place, and you want to give approval to this, and the same with the school board, right? We have to. Are you going to get approval from the school board?
We have to, yes, we have. They have numbers. We have talked to them about what's coming down the pike. This is like This is like 5 years out.
But I don't want to put the cart before the horse.
No, and everything, and in the process, this is pre-concept. We go to concept, then we go to the prelim plan, and then we go. We have many steps, and that's why we're trying to include the public as much as possible in the beginning steps so that we know where we are, you know where we are. So this is not by any stretch of the imagination going to get approved by the end of this year.
Okay, because if you see like Monocacy and Frederick, I guess that's smart growth. They had the roads in place for 4 years, maybe, that double highway, and they're just now starting to develop it. I mean, that's what we need here.
Yes, we would like to see.
We need to have that first.
Yes.
Okay.
Are there any? Yes, sir. This will be the last questions, if any.
Yeah, I beg your indulgence. Ralph Gann again,
You're welcome.
2510. Just to follow on with that and not to get down to too much detail, it does say in the adequate facilities ordinance within the town that, quote, the commission shall require that all streets and intersections designated as serving the proposed development project be certified as to their adequacy by a licensed firm hired by the town at the expense of the developer. So we do that. That precedes the study by the state. So at some point, you will phase that study into the consideration?
Yes, I don't think we won't just use ours. We're going to have the state. I want to thank everyone for coming this evening.
Roxanne, if I may say one more thing. I was told one time by the State Highway Commission that if you think your voice doesn't matter when you call about roads, whether it be 270, 27, I was told that for every phone call or email that's submitted to them, it equates to 5,000 citizens. Your voice equates to 5,000 citizens worth of influence. So if you think that one voice, you know, hey, 270 is crowded, it actually, you equate to 5,000 people calling and saying this is a problem. The state highway. I had a friend who used to call it every day on the way home.
He asked for the number.
Do you have the number?
I do not have the number.
I think if you
was
would,
told.
I'm sorry, if you would call Town Hall and ask them, I think our planning, John Breeding will give it to you. They'll give it to you.
We'll get it to you. Madam Chair, may I say ask one thing, not a question, but more of a show of hands, since we had a mixed sign-in for my own understanding of what the crowd's here for tonight.
Can we do it once we're done with this?
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
do it.
oh
when we're
yeah,
done with
yeah,
this,
I
please.
thought we were done. Oh, sorry, yeah, no.
I have one more thing I wanted to add, which is regarding the west side versus the east side. One of the reasons that this whole thing came to the top and it got like a special law to make it mixed use rather than go through the master planning process, and got a special law to waive the open space, is because it's supposedly because it's in the downtown vision plan, but that's only the west side. The east side of 27, that property, that separate parcel, is not in the downtown vision plan. I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that.
Thank you. At this time, I'm going to close this hearing for the Beck property. Our next hearing is for the recommendation for the division of allocation of.
Madam Chair, I requested one thing before the closure of that hearing, which
Okay.
is more a show of hands. Since we had, I'm Carl Munder, counsel. I would like to see, since we had a mixed sign-in sheet, how many people are here for the Beck property in general? How's the hallway? A lot? I can't.
Yeah, it's,
I mean, a lot of
actually,
hands.
most of it is in here.
Okay. Who is here in favor of what's being proposed on Beck? Who's well, of course you, Craig.
Carl, I would say at this point, that's an unfair question.
I agree. It's
We're
unfair.
at the very beginning of the process. And
I
for
know
people
it's-
to make a final
Ron, it's not
decision, Carl.
Order, please. Order.
Ron, it's not unfair, because I would like to see so we know
I'm
how
sorry.
to adjust the hearing schedule and everything else, because the schedule we're on now, currently being proposed, is if everything moves along at its current pace, by June, the council has this, which I think is incorrect, wrong, too aggressive, too fast. The chairwoman has also said this will not be approved. So in the process, council has first step in the approval process. I want to get it right. So I need to know, obviously I have a feeling all the people here tonight are not in favor of what is being proposed, the density, and we need to get this right. So I am in no way near ready to move forward with this until some of the questions that were brought up tonight answered to me. Code requires water. All we've heard is there's a well on there, might produce 100,000 gallons. That's not nearly enough for this. Town might not have water to back up and supply. So I want answers to infrastructure questions before we proceed with this.
I think that's the road that we're on, Carl.
Okay,
I don't think we're going to push this thing through.
All right.
Okay? I don't want it pushed through either. but
Okay. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you.
Chair.
We're going to go on now to the recommendations for the division and allocations of categories. Feel free to leave if you do not want to stay for the rest of the meeting. If you were just here for the Beck property, I understand, that's fine. I'll give us 5 minutes if anyone wants to leave, and then some of the people sitting or standing, I apologize for you having to stand out there for so long.
You're welcome, thank you. Thank you.
A lot of people here for the rezoning.
Next order for the public hearing is for the recommendation for the division of the allocation of categories. This will be presented by Barney Quinn, the town engineer.
Hold on, Barney.
Here.
I got it. It's in one of my files.
Okay.
So this was introduced last month, right?
Yeah, I think please pull your microphone closer so the people out in the
Sure.
hallway can hear.
Recommendation for division of allocation categories. This is taking the approved net available capacity yields for water and sewer and dividing up amongst our 13 categories, like we do every 2 years. So it's something we required to do every 2 years. We have a list of, some of the pipeline projects, things that are going on or potentially coming in. That's listed on page 2. And on page 3 is the recommendations of how those categories should be split. What you'll see is we pulled some of the water available from the priority area and divided into a couple of the areas that we foresee coming down the pipe in the next 2 years. And this is how it's, being introduced as far as putting out there. So you have a good mix of new industrial, new commercial, redevelopment, revitalization, and expansion of existing commercial. There's also a non-mixed use residential, new demand, anticipation of the regular property coming in. So that's what that allocation's there for.
Now, that hearing hasn't happened yet.
Correct.
Annexation, okay.
Correct. That's why that is put in that place, right? It's nothing that's committed.
Barney, question. Can you speak in broad terms about the ratio of this allocation for commercial, industrial, retail, non-residential versus residential? Can you speak to
where most of our water goes? Is that what you're asking?
In terms of this allocation, in terms
Okay.
of your planning going forward, what does that look like versus what we have right now?
So what we have right now, I think it's somewhere between 70–80% is residential, is where most of our water is used. In this case, we have 45,000 gallons available, and about 10,000, only about a quarter of that put towards the residential. So most of it is put in the commercial, priority, and industrial.
Good, good.
Okay.
That was the direction that we spoke to going back several years.
Any questions from any of the commission members?
Just one, Madam Chair, if you indulge me again. It'll be quick for Barney, for the town engineer. Green trees coming up, and it says in the pipeline via purchase agreement on page 2. Has that already been taken out of the current excess? Has that already been accounted for in this 40,000 gallon number?
Yes, it has.
Okay.
Yeah, along with the Twin Arch Business Park lots, we had a 35,000 gallon a day set aside for all 35 lots.
Okay.
existing lots of record is also accounted for. The Twin Ridge Professional Park and Twin Ridge Industrial. That's why all those are zeros.
Okay, so the 40,000 gallons is just for what would be classified as new development in town, or stuff that's in the pipeline per se.
Pipeline or anticipated projects, yep.
Thank you.
Does anyone
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mhm. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. Seeing none, we just need to make a favorable recommendation to the town council. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I did. I'm sorry. My bad. I was so busy timing, I forgot to silence it. So for the town council members, all those in favor of giving a favorable recommendation to this allocation, signify by saying aye. I don't think we need a motion because it's a recommendation. Aye? Anybody opposed? Okay, so this is going to the town council as a favorable recommendation. Okay. That ends the public hearing portion of our meeting. We're going to start the regular meeting in 5 minutes at 8 o'clock. So we're just going to have a real quick 5-minute recess. Meeting of the Planning Commission to order. Our first order of business is the pledge, the flag. All rise. Our first order of business is the approval of minutes from February 28th, 2022. Are there any additions or corrections?
I would move to approve them as submitted.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. We approve the minutes of the February 28th meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. The next item is for citizens' comments. These are items that are not on the agenda that we are going to be hearing this evening, as well as what we just heard. So if there's any other citizen comments, you may come forward. Seeing none, we'll move on. Next order of business is to hear from our Frederick and Carroll County planner. Our Carroll County planner is here. Heather? Hannah. I'm sorry. Well, I'm having a really hard night.
Long night.
It's been a long day.
Good to see everybody. Just one quick update is our comprehensive rezoning. We have finished the agriculture and conservation text work group. What we're doing now is working with our concept team, which is just like interdepartments at the county, and we're going to transmit the text amendments to our planning commission early June, and then hopefully the Board of County Commissioners will be able to adopt it before their November departure from office. That's it for me if you guys have any questions.
I don't have any questions. Okay. Anyone else? Okay.
Have a good
Thank you. Thank you. Is our Frederick County planner here?
I did not receive an email from him. I thought he was supposed to be here. He had actually a presentation for one
Yeah,
of
let's see if you can do that next time.
projects. I told him for next week. Yeah, I told him it's going to be a busy.
The next is the pre-concept plan and introductions and recommendations. Our first thing is the redevelopment of the old bank property. I'm going to ask, is Byron here?
He should be. I ran into him when I was signing people in.
There he is. Thank you. Welcome. Welcome from Utah, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for coming. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I think you've probably traveled the farthest for us for the. So we'd like to talk a little bit about this. John, do you want to go into what you have there?
Yeah, so basically, this was brought to our attention that they were looking to put a car wash in the old Chase Bank down on Ridgeville and Route 27. And basically, we're bringing it in front of the Planning Commission to get sort of their feet wet to see if it's even something that's feasible or even something that the town wants to see a redevelopment of this parcel. And I'll really kick it to Byron because really it's his plan to present to you as a developer. So it's yours.
Absolutely. Brian Prince with Shiny Shell Car Wash. Appreciate the time tonight. I was disappointed when I walked in. I thought everybody was here to learn more about the car wash proposal.
Sorry.
But nevertheless, so Shiny Shell Car Wash, we own and operate express car washes. And so that's the conveyorized tunnel that moves cars quickly through a tunnel automated system, washes the car and gets it out quickly. We're building a handful of these in Maryland and Pennsylvania, Virginia, and we identified this empty bank site a few months ago, and just thought it was such a phenomenal location and loved the architecture of the existing building. And so came up with a really creative idea to preserve the existing building and convert it to an express car wash, because it is approximately the exact length and height you need for an express car wash tunnel. And so it is, as you know, zoned community commercial and would be a permitted use in the existing zoning ordinance. And so that is the idea. We've done a lot of work. I want to thank John and Barney. Your staff is excellent. We've had a handful of meetings leading up to tonight and done a lot of field work as far as survey, understand where utilities are, existing constraints to ensure that this is a feasible plan. And so the business model is, maybe jump to the site plan. I can give a quick overview. This is a simple rendering to kind of make it visually easy to understand. So it's on the corner of Ridgeville Boulevard and Ridgeside Drive. And so we're preserving the existing building. What you see here is our proposed site plan that does not really change much of the site. You know, all the parking and the asphalt that is there really won't change much, other than we're probably going to be able to reduce the impervious surfaces or reduce the amount of asphalt that's there. There is a bay for an old drive-through that we'll remove and widen the drive aisles. So how it'll work is you'll pull in on, maybe if you have a, I'll borrow that to simplify it.
You can roll the thing forward if you want to just.
Quickly. So, let's see here.
Just don't put it in anybody's eye.
There we go. So you'll pull in, go through the pay lane, enter the car wash tunnel here, and exit, be able to exit out onto Ridgeville Boulevard or turn around and go out on Ridgeside Drive. This image here is, we'll have about 20 stalls that will have vacuum arches. So as part of the service, we have free vacuums and spray and towels there. So you'll go through the tunnel, and if you like, you can park and vacuum out your car and clean it. That's part of that. The vacuums, the hand spray, the towels, the pressurized air is just part of the offering. We also include, it's not shown here, as we always like to install a gated playground, so that while parents vacuum the cars, the kids can play at a playground. We also have a members lounge that has a bathroom and free drinks. And so it's really a premium service. There's a lot of these going in this region of the country, but is a kind of a premium service compared to other competitors that you'll see in other towns.
Can you kind of go over the concept, because you're talking about members, and what does it entail?
Yeah.
Like, do I go in and pay like
That's a great
$20 for for have my car washed? I mean, what?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it is a membership model. You can show up and just pay a one-time fee to get your car washed, or we do have a monthly membership that's about $20, and you can drive through as many times as you want to get your car washed. If you come more than twice, it makes sense to be a member. If you come more than twice a month, it makes sense financially to be a member. At the average site, 60% of the cars that drive through become monthly members, and the remainder just come as they need. So we both have, you can show up and just be a retail payer and get your car washed once, or become a member.
What's the average water usage per day on this?
Good question. So the average usage is about 20 gallons, 20 gallons a car. To give you a kind of a comparative analysis, because what does that really mean? If you wash your car in the driveway, that's about 80 gallons.
Repeat that.
So if for example, if you washed your car in the driveway with your hose,
yes,
you'll use about 80 to 70 gallons.
80, okay.
80 to wash the car. If you go through like a self-serve car wash with a wand hand sprayer, it's about 50 to 60 gallons. With our system, the total amount of water that hits the car is about 70 gallons, but we have a pretty sophisticated reclaimed tank system. It's put next to the building that recycles 70% of the water that hits the car. So of the 70 gallons that hits a car that goes through the tunnel, 49 of those gallons go back into the reclamation system, and about 21 gallons is used. And so we found a way to make it a sustainable practice, use less water than the average, kind of rollover car wash or self-serve. So it would be about 20 gallons a car. We think at this site, we'll wash anywhere from 200 to 300 cars a day, and have gone over those numbers with your staff. But that's about 5,000 to 6,000 gallons a day.
Did you talk about whether we have that available? I'm not saying we don't, I just don't know if that was discussed.
You mean the building?
No, the water.
No, the water.
The water. Yeah.
No, we haven't gone over that yet.
Okay.
In fact, that's the first I was hearing those numbers, so.
Okay.
I might have them in an email, but I haven't seen it yet.
I mean, it's a great concept,
Yeah.
recycling, but still need to have enough to start.
Yeah. We're based in Utah, in a desert state, and so we take the water usage very seriously. And this is a way to provide our big motto is just is the vision of just a great value proposition, and we bring that through excellent service, speed, and a quality wash, and done in a very sustainable way. And so the reason people love Shiny Shell and become members is they come because they can get in, wash their car quickly, and get out, and it's affordable. About half the folks that drive through every day will use the vacuums, and the other half just come through, wash their car, and get out. And it's about a 2.5 to 3 minute process. So it's a very quick and easy, efficient way, and is by far a much superior wash than if you did it yourself, and just saves a lot of time.
Byron, I have one question.
Yeah.
So if I'm a Shiny Shell member, can I go to any Shiny Shell?
Yes, that's a great question. So we are looking at a few sites nearby. If you were a member, yes, you could wash your car at any Shiny Shell location.
John, you're messing up. We want the people in the other Shiny Shell locations to come here to Mount Airy, not the other way around. We want them to come and get the car wash and go out and eat in downtown and support our business.
Another quick point I'll make is, does a site like this create traffic? And it really doesn't. This is kind of a stop along the way. That's one of the reasons we think this is such a great site, is it's across from all the retail. And so we want to be in locations that are convenient for our members, next to grocery, next to retail, so that on their daily or weekly traffic patterns, you're stopping along the way. We're not creating net traffic. They're already in the area for those weekly or monthly retail visits, and they stop by on their way home from work or on their way home from the grocery store, et cetera.
Again, I just wanted to bring this in front of you guys just to sort of get your heartbeat on it, to give them some feedback as well.
I mean, it's an interesting concept. The front of the building, the front faces, pull back to
This front elevation is exiting out
out that way.
So yeah, that
Ridgeville
front
Boulevard.
elevation's right here.
Okay.
So there are 4 pillars existing on the building. We'd have to remove 2, but we're going to try to preserve. We love the colonial red brick and the white. We're going to try to preserve these 2 pillars and have that entrance to the tunnel there. And then this is an extension, a proposed extension of the existing building. We envision using the same exterior architectural elements, the standing seam metal roof, the red brick, the white colonial windows, to match that same look and feel.
Byron, just look at the elevations really quick. I see that this is where the addition is, but it looks like you've actually made an addition on the front elevation, if that's what's implying. That's what I was trying to figure out when I looked at the elevation. So you've added elevation features here, which I think is the exit, but I'm not positive.
No, you're right. So you'd enter here and exit out here. Yeah, that exit we would have to retrofit where the bank door is.
Right.
To make that work. This would be larger than where that existing bank door is. But the point, I think, of this rendering is to show that we really want to maintain the architectural theming of the existing building.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is very preliminary. This
Right.
is just the first step before even a site plan.
Right. Anybody else have any questions? I think it's an excellent idea. You've taken a building, you've kept the building. You know, I couldn't imagine when John sent me this. I said, how are they going to do that in that building? But the fact that you're keeping the building, you're recycling your water, I think it's an excellent concept, and I think you should continue with
I
it.
appreciate it. The last point I'll make that I had a couple questions from other folks is the soaps and the chemicals.
Mhm.
They are biodegradable, non-hazardous, non-toxic. It's basically hand wash for cars. So
Okay.
it is at a national level approved to be in any standard storm drain facility.
Okay.
And it is very safe in that way. That's a question we get a lot.
Madam Chair,
So-
I'm going to be, sorry.
So the one thing that it would have to meet, of course, that does meet the standards for the Chesapeake Bay thing, you know, with the water. Okay.
The phosphates you mean and stuff, just check into it, it should. I'm
It-
not
it
saying it will or
absolutely-
won't, but
Yeah.
please check into that.
Yeah, the Chesapeake Bay is really important to the state of
Or
Maryland.
just
so.
check in, since I know I've looked on your website when I saw this, I think you already have a couple existing locations in Maryland, or are you getting ready to open them?
We do.
So-
And what I could have John do, we have a pretty informative YouTube video that I'll have John send out to watch. It gives a really good overview of the business and the process. I should have sent that out before, but that could help as you get ready for us to come back.
Now, what I was
Okay.
inquiring about is saying, if you have existing sites in Maryland, the chemicals that you use there should be fine.
Yeah.
So,
And it's really kind of a national standard that's used throughout we'll call it the express car wash industry. So.
as I'll second the chairwoman's comments, I like the idea, it's good. I do have questions on the site plan, but I've talked to John about some of them and Barney, and they've alleviated some, nothing major. But if this moves ahead, I'll be talking with you. I mean, I don't have a vote on anything. I just more want to make sure everything's try and think through as much as possible. I like what John said about some other potential interchange improvements and site improvements that will help the intersection. But now, as the chairwoman said, it's an interesting reuse. I'm glad it's coming. It's a interesting use of it.
I do want to mention one other thing. If you look up, they have, part of this site development plan is they're going to put in a right turn lane off of Ridgeside Drive onto Ridgeville Boulevard. That's currently not there. This will be an improvement they'll be doing as part of the redevelopment of the parcel to allow for, a right turn only lane. And they're also moving 2 large poles as part of this, is the power pole and also the intersection pole.
There'll be a right turn decel lane on Ridgeside turning on to Ridgeville Boulevard.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming in. We really appreciate
We're
that.
excited to bring the business to
We're excited
Mount
to
Airy.
see it.
Thank you.
Thanks for your patience.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Shoot me
Hey.
that YouTube video.
I'll be a member.
Actually, one more question. How many people does it take to run that? How many jobs would be coming into the town for?
That is a great question. As opposed to the old traditional full-serve car wash where you have 20 kids out there, detailing the cars, we've set aside about 6 stalls for employee parking, but on any given day, we only have 2 to 3 employees in the tunnel. One guiding cars in, one at the pay kiosk that would be, we're envisioning right here, and then another just monitoring the vacuum stations, bringing in towels. So in total, we think we'd add about 15 to 16 employees, and 3 to 4 would be on site at any given day.
Thanks.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
Have a good, safe flight back. The next concept for introduction is the redevelopment of the old bank property on the corner of Main Street and Route 808 and Prospect Road, Liquidity Ale Works. As for the, okay.
Said, maybe get you one more seat. Ron, you coming up or no?
Okay, so we have the usual suspects. No, I haven't. Good company. Okay, Ron, do you want to start? John, you go ahead.
Yeah, so this is a redevelopment of the existing bank building here at Prospect and Main Street. Ray came to us about a year ago, almost now, I think, with the idea of redeveloping. We started with a plan, and then for whatever reason, they've turned back to the owner of the property is going to hold the mortgage and lease out the space to Liquidity Ale Works. We've been working with the owner and the engineer to come up with a plan. And what we've submitted for your review and approval is just a site improvement plan. So this is an interesting project. So there is a failing intersection here, but we're working in a separate avenue to redevelop the Prospect Road intersection at Main Street. So we're currently working with town council, our town attorneys, the owner's attorney, and the owner to come up with an agreement to work that out. But that's separate from this, but I do want to mention that those improvements are part of the redevelopment of this parcel. So anyway, so if you look at the plan here right now, I'll try to enlarge the site plan here a little bit if I can get the cursor to go where I want it to go. So there's not a huge amount of work actually happening on the site itself. Inside the building, yes, huge amount of work that the owner's working with Ray with Liquidity Ale Works. So these are some of the comments from town staff. We're looking at possibly increasing the or rerouting the water inlets on the parking lot. That's the T-shape that's sort of shaped there in the back of the parking lot. There'll be a trash enclosure to the south of the property as part of the redevelopment. And they're going to be putting an outside patio or plaza as it is here, and some steps leading down to the rear parking lot. Again, there's new water lines that are also being installed to gain access to the building, and some new exterior lighting. Again, the owner is working with the town to redevelopment of all the windows. He's already done a roof replacement on the property. So it's really to just get your final approval or concept, and this is a concept final, kind of to sort of move the project along to get building permits, et cetera. So I don't know if you have any questions for Ray or Ron or Rob.
3 R's.
Triple
R cubed, yeah. So
New beer.
there,
Triple R.
there's the name of your first brew, Triple R. There you go. there's going to be a tasting room? Is that like, is there more than one floor on this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a tap room on the main floor, and there's also a mezzanine in the back that we're gonna open up, and that'll be an extension of the tap room.
And I will mention now, Ray, you can correct me if I'm wrong. This is a farm brewing facility, so they don't actually have food that they're cooking on site. There'll be food trucks, possibly, but
Right.
this is, the tasting room doesn't. This license doesn't require food on site.
Right.
That's
Okay.
correct. We're a Class 5 brewery. We're
Right.
not allowed by law to serve our
Okay.
own food.
Right, class 5 brewery.
No, I'll let you, I'll answer my questions last, because since I'm not non-voted, go ahead.
I'm just curious about the food. So does that mean people can bring food in?
Absolutely. Yep, we're gonna partner with Lorenzo's to get pizza down there, and we're gonna have food trucks. So we're really trying to integrate into the community as much as we can. Help support everybody else on Main Street. What's good for us is good for Main Street, so.
Absolutely. Any other questions?
Yeah, okay, go ahead, Martina.
Your timeline, how?
So, yeah, it's been a little bit of a issue. It's just getting things these days is difficult. But we're looking at opening and starting brewery operations in mid-May, and then opening the tap room to the public sometime in June, hopefully.
Okay, that's pretty quick.
Okay. They have been doing a lot of work there.
Hopefully. Madam Chair, may I, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. A couple site plan questions here. The dumpster enclosure, is that, I'm just concerned that if it's left open or something, the resident past the parking lot would be able to see into the dumpster enclosure. Is there a way to turn it around and face the opening towards Main Street, or is it just needs to be in a flat area, or does it? Second.
We can change the direction. I mean, it's really just the accessibility.
Okay.
And the inability for the site to have any other location.
Yeah, no, that's.
We can possibly have it so it comes down Main Street, but then people driving down Main Street can look right at it.
Yeah.
They can
So
walk
I'm
through
not
Main
sure.
Street. That's going to look dumb.
Yeah, it's one half a dozen other. I was just thought, and as Councilmember Dickinson mentioned on the other one, has there any estimate of gallon per day water usage on that yet? Have you presented that to the town in any such way?
I believe it's on the site plan. In the notes. 1707. 1,700 gallons a day.
Oh, okay, thank you. All right. Just so that can be,
I think I read where the tap room isn't open on Mondays and Tuesdays, right?
That is correct.
Okay, so it's just Wednesday through Sunday.
Yep.
Okay.
It doesn't open until 3, I don't think.
Doesn't open until 3.
Yeah, our hours are operational.
3 to 9.
Tuesday and Thursday, 3 to 8. Friday, 12. No, sorry. Friday, 3 to 9. Saturday, 12 to 9. Sunday, 12 to 8.
Sundays.
12 to 8.
it's on the, yeah.
That's on there too.
I know, but
Yeah, I'm just trying to find a gallon per day usage, but then again, sometimes the lettering's small. Exactly.
And we don't have any elevations on this plan
Right.
because there's no elevation changes. Everything's going to look as it is.
Okay.
New windows.
New windows?
I think we're still waiting for a photometric plan. I don't think you actually showed that and the light details. But they're still.
Working with the distributor on those.
Okay.
And you're working on your liquor, your,
Got their liquor license.
you got the liquor license, right?
We're fully licensed.
Or whatever it is.
So you would enter the business in the front. That's currently well, there's a door in the back, but how do you get in from the parking lot? How would you walk into the business?
Up the steps on the side of the building here, or possibly around the sidewalk. Or you park out front along Main Street if you get there early.
Yes, the main public entrance would be the front door
The front.
that currently exists.
Okay.
Yeah, because I believe your plan is the brewery operations are in the basement.
That is correct.
Yeah, okay.
think the brewery operation is upstairs, right on the first floor. Don't you have that's just the holding tanks
Yeah, we
upstairs.
have 3 serve tanks that'll go on the main floor as a way to bring the brewery kind of up into the tap room a little bit, but that'll be it. The brewing actually will happen in the basement.
Okay.
Any other questions? I think it's a great idea. It's a great reuse of a building that's been around for quite a while.
Long time coming.
Yeah, long time coming. My son's excited. I don't know.
Wanting it for a long time.
Yep.
Something to be done with that beautiful building.
Yes. Make it pretty again.
Will do.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Hey, you want to give the recommendations?
Yes. I have a recommendation, a favorable recommendation for the site plan for the old bank building, number 8 North Main Street, known as Liquidity Ale Works. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay.
That's of course with these conditions.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's got to come back for final. Next item. We have 2 special exception requests this evening for recommendations to the Board of Appeals. The first one is MA-BOA-202201. It's a request for home daycare center at 2004 Fieldbrook Lane. Are the owners here? Okay. I'll have John, okay. John, you want to go through the report, please?
Yeah, so we received a request for, to run a home daycare, or home occupation, a home daycare in a residential building. The application, of course, is for 2004 Fieldbrook Lane in Mount Airy, Maryland. Current zoning is R2. Again, the application is asking for to run a home-based business, which is for daycare. And the step from here is basically presented to Planning Commission for a recommendation to the Boards of Appeal, which we still need to set that date for the hearing for the Board of Appeals once we get the recommendations for both of the 2 special exceptions. Again, and the adjoining property owners for this project were notified about the project going forward, and I have not received any complaints or concerns from any citizens adjoining the property. And we're suggesting that we give a favorable recommendation to the Board of Appeals, is what the staff recommendation is.
I'd say are there any questions, but it's going to come back to us, so. I move that we forward this request to the Board of Appeals with a favorable recommendation to allow the operation of the daycare center. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, everybody seconded, so it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, thank you. That was a real quick and easy. You'll get a notification of your
Where did Scott go?
meeting with the Board of Appeals.
But at least we didn't need them.
We're okay.
We'll see you again.
Thank you so much.
Hopefully you get the feeling you're wanted.
The next request is for MA-BOA-2022-01, a request for a bed and breakfast at 17 Paradise Avenue. Is the owner here?
She is.
This is a house from my childhood.
Again, I do have a PowerPoint presentation for this project. I don't know if you would like to see it at this time, or if you're going to take public comment, or just want to convey that to the Board of Appeals. It's really your call. I mean, I can go through this. The applicant is requesting bed and breakfast in a residential building. This is 17 Paradise Avenue in Mount Airy, Maryland. The existing zoning in the property is RE, residential existing. Again, the applicant is looking to start a bed and breakfast out of the existing building. They've done a fabulous job remodeling the property inside and out. And again, the staff is recommending a favorable recommendation to be forwarded to the Board of Appeals.
John, do you have some of this visual material in slide form?
I have it in slide.
I'd just like to show what the public, what it looks like.
Turn it on here.
There's not going to be what's the tower going to be, like an office or a lounge area? The tower in the back.
Yeah, so go ahead.
The tower will be an office on the first floor and my escape to place. on the
Okay,
second floor.
gotcha.
I have a couple things I have to do over here, so doing multiple things.
I propose the name of the place to be 17 Paradise. That is, of course, the address. It would be a turn-of-the-century bed and breakfast in the historic town of Mount Airy, Maryland. And this would be what would show on the sign that I put in the front. So there will be a slide, but this essentially is some of the information that would be put on that sign.
Okay.
That's the new house. You may have remembered the old house that the porch was falling down. I grew up in that house, and I decided it was too good to tear down. It was too historically interesting, and I put a lot of time and energy and effort into restoring it.
It's excellent. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. The main floor, you can see on the upper left side, is the floor plan that was submitted at the time that we did the renovations. The only thing I did on the first floor was take out not a load-bearing wall, thank goodness, and I was able to put the big long dining table in there, and the kitchen was rearranged slightly. There is the room that the lower right-hand corner is my father worked for the B&O Railroad, so we have a little memorial to him in there, and the other room is the music room. And that little door on the right side shows the stairway, the back stairway upstairs, and you can see it in this picture right here. It was an old house built probably around the turn of the century, certainly before town water was installed in the town, and there is a picture of the water tower in the back, but I'll show you that later. Okay, second floor. There are 8 bedrooms in this house. I believe originally it was a boarding house with 2 apartments on the first and second floor, and then the 4 rooms on the third floor were individually rented out. Each of the rooms, we didn't gut it because I wanted to keep the plaster walls and all the old trim, but it has new everything. New heating, new plumbing, new electricity, everything. Third floor, you can see the rooms are slightly smaller. We added a dormer to the third floor, which is egress accessible for the fire department, and it also left more light into the third floor, and that's the middle picture on the top, so you get an idea of the old railings and stuff. All of that and the trim are chestnut, which is unusual for them.
Yeah, you can't get it anymore.
There are 3 bathrooms. I added one, which was the third floor bathroom on the right. The second floor bathroom was extended by 4 feet, and we moved the first floor bathroom, but I used all old fixtures again. I was trying to retain the flavor of the old house and keep it true to its character. Okay, everybody wants to know what that was. People have said, oh, it's a lighthouse. They didn't know it, and it was in very bad shape. It was where the windmill is. There was originally a full-size windmill, and that was a pump. It pumped water up into the water tower. At the top of the water tower, lower left-hand corner, you can see the 800-gallon tank still there. So I renovated the first floor, which will be the office, and the second floor is, like I said, my space.
My space.
The front, the sign on the front will be like the first slide that I showed you. I'm going to do a very similar post so that it looks something like the porch posts on the front of the house, and it'll be just to the right of the satellite dish. I didn't want to put it dead center. I just wanted it off center and out of the line of sight. This is the back of the house. I'm still working on the parking area. I don't want it to look like a big asphalt driveway. I want it to blend into the wooded area in the back and the yard. There is a big area that we can park. There'll be no on-street parking. There's space probably 45 by 80 feet. Not that I'd use the whole space for parking, but at least the space is there. And these are just ideas, the checkerboard ideas in the bottom. These are just ideas. Okay, the name is 17 Paradise. I will be there when the guests are present. The hours of operation are Wednesday through Sunday and holiday weekends through Monday for long weekends. Check-in is 4, check-out is 11 a.m., 8 bedrooms, 4 for guests. Breakfast will be served, and parking is on the grassy area by the garage in the back of the house. On access on Dorsey Avenue, there are 2 25-foot fire escape ladders on the 3rd floor where we added the dormer. That is an egress, fireman egress accessible, whatever the right terminology is, and it does crank out to 90 degrees, and it meets fire specifications. I do have a 25-foot escape ladder on the 3rd floor and also one on the 2nd floor.
Okay.
And why should Mount Airy have a bed and breakfast? Well, the location is within short walking distance of downtown, so they can take advantage of all the historic things that have been done downtown. The visitors can now stay within the town limits and enjoy the dining and shopping and relaxation of the downtown area. I would like to develop a self-guided walking tour brochure of other historic homes in Mount Airy. It's very gratifying to see that the downtown area has maintained its charming old town spirit. I grew up in that house. I went to school here. I graduated from Mount Airy High School. And now this is what I'd like to do in my spare time. And that's it.
Thank you.
Oh,
Awesome.
one more thing. I know you want to know what's for breakfast.
Okay, yeah. Uh-oh, the power went off. Go right ahead. Tell us what's for breakfast.
We're having quiche and sausage, egg, and cheese casserole. We're having oatmeal muffins. We're having fruit. We're having coffee, tea and milk, and juice.
Awesome. When does that start? Can I be there tomorrow?
It's not open to the public. You have to get
I
it
know,
first.
I know. I don't have any questions. Anybody have any issues? I just think we need to send it to. Yes, sir.
Hi, John Humphrey, 302 Dorsey Avenue. I live 4 doors down on Dorsey Avenue. First, speaking on behalf of another neighbor, Chris Garcia, who had to leave at 8 o'clock to go to work. He was here, he signed in. I know another neighbor is here also to express some concerns about this. First of all, I want to thank you for fixing up the house. It's after like a decade of sitting dilapidated, it's nice to have it there. However, there are concerns from multiple neighbors about the plan. So I'm going to talk as quickly as I can because it's a long night. Number one, there's confusion about, we've heard different stories about how many rooms to be let on this, and the town code says no more than 4 rooms. The proposal is 8 rooms. Related to that, on parking, according to the town code, residential parking requirements are 3 parking spaces for residents, and in the bed and breakfast code, it says that for parking, parking shall be provided on site with one additional space required for each room that is available to be rented. If it's just 4 according to town code plus the 3 already mandated, that's 7 parking spaces in that backyard. If it's 8 rooms, which is not permitted by code, we're going up to 11 parking spaces in the backyard. That's of concern to us on the street. Second of all, I want to propose that there's a list of requirements of standards to be used for the exception. Letter A, the first one is the primary use of the structure and property shall be residential. I'd like to point out that I don't think this qualifies under that. It's our understanding, and it should be perhaps a question to the owner, is this primarily used as a residence, or is the primary use as a business, as a bed and breakfast? And for that reason, I don't think it qualifies. And if you were to overlook that, and I know my neighbor has some other wants to speak as well, but if you were to overlook that standard, it's also a 4-bedroom minimum according to town code, not the 8. And so again, nothing personal. I know they're nice people, but we do have concerns, and we do appreciate the work done on the house. Thank you.
Okay, well, the one thing, and I saw it on there, yeah, it does have 8 bedrooms,
Yes.
but only 4 of them are for guests.
Okay, well,
That's
I'm
what
not
that says.
okay, so I'm not sure how that's going to be regulated, and that wasn't in. And also, I noted that in the recommendation from staff, that was a question mark on the document posted online. So I thought it was interesting that staff was recommending it with insufficient information. It wasn't even listed. It says with conditions that no more than question mark number of rooms will be used. So I think that needed to be clarified and how that's regulated.
Okay, and
So-
this is what we're doing now, and so we'll take these concerns to the Board of Appeals. This goes first to the Board of Appeals. We don't make a decision yet.
Right.
The Board of Appeals makes that special exception, and whether they're approve it or
Mhm.
not approve it. So you might want to also check to see the date of the Board of Appeals and bring everybody back at that point in time.
Will neighbors be notified of that date?
Yes, they will.
Okay.
Yes, they will.
So, but again, in your decision to make a favorable decision to the Board of Appeals, the question is, do they qualify by all the standards listed? Will it be used as primarily a residence or primarily a business? So that's the question to be asked. Thank you.
I think right now we're referring it. We're not going to.
Thank you.
We're just saying we're going to refer it to the Board of Appeals. We're not.
Can you just clarify?
We just make a recommendation to the Board of Appeals for consideration. That's all we're doing tonight.
Can you just clarify the 4-bedroom, 8-bedroom?
The 8 bedrooms versus the 4?
4 bedrooms or 8
There
bedrooms?
are 8 bedrooms.
Right.
2 of them are occupied.
Okay.
Would be happy to start with 4 bedrooms. We don't have to do 6. We don't have to do 8. We can do 4.
Okay, and do you live there? Is that your residence?
I live there part-time.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else want to make a comment at this point?
I just had a clarifying question. Hi, I'm Carroll County, 1 and 2 Paradise. I'm the neighbor directly across the street.
Yeah.
And how many bedrooms is it being rented? Is it 4 or is it 8?
4.
Okay.
4 for the bed and breakfast.
And of course, I'm concerned about parking and traffic in a residential street and, you know, all that, but.
Well, parking, I have plenty of room to park. Probably room for 16 cars in my backyard. Not that it would ever be that.
Sure.
I also want to say one more thing. I have a very modest business plan.
There you go.
My business plan, I am hoping for an average of 3 bookings a week.
Okay.
3 bookings a week, average.
So when you
Maybe
came
more
to
in the
me, you
summer,
said it was
maybe
gonna, when you came to me a couple weeks ago, you said we were gonna try to rent from 6 to 8. So if
Right, I
you're
have
thinking
changed
6 to 8, now you're saying 3,
No, I'm
that's a
saying
big
4.
difference.
I'm saying 4.
Mhm. I was
So
just
right now,
curious,
the
'cause it
business
sounds
plan
like
is-
there's a lot of question marks.
Correct, but right now her business plan is 3 bookings a week. Correct?
3 bookings a week, right. Average.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, we're just making a recommendation to take this to the Board of Appeals for consideration. Is everybody in agreement with that?
Yes.
Okay. So, okay. Okay, so we have a recommendation, and right now I'm going to read it as it says in the staff, that we recommend approval of the bed and breakfast to the Board of Appeals.
Favorable recommendation.
Favorable recommendation, yes.
I think that we could add that we condition it on the.
Favorable,
Yeah, 4 bedrooms, only 4 bedrooms are leaded, and
Right.
the other, whatever.
The average of 3 bookings per week.
Yeah. I mean, that is a lot.
okay, 4 bedrooms, 3 bookings a week, and that means that the parking is, there's 1 car per booking,
Just say sufficient parking.
sufficient parking.
Consistent with the code.
So it's a package deal.
Okay, so we are giving a recommendation,
Favorable.
favorable recommendation to approve the bed and breakfast with the following conditions. Only 4 bedrooms to be used as a bed and breakfast, an average of 4 bookings a week, and sufficient parking, which would meet the code. Anyone else? Anything? All those in favor? Those opposed? Okay. We'll also be notified of the hearing, the Board of Appeals hearing. We're moving on to new business. I'm gonna wait till some people move out and some people come in, so we have some people can sit.
Anybody else freezing, or is it just?
Is what?
Barney, can we turn the heat up just a smidgen?
Yeah, it's getting chillier.
It's getting a little chilly.
It just, you have it up to like 10 to 65 or something? I'm not sure. We're over here like, I'm like.
I know, I like 20 minutes ago.
I need a-
It's cooler than that. There's more chairs.
It might be to try and get.
There are some more chairs here. I'm just giving us some time to filter in. We're going on to new business.
We shouldn't let council members.
The first thing under new business is ordinance. Are we ready? Is everything okay there? We're going on to new business. It's ordinance 2022-5. The proposed changes to the NP, the Neighborhood Professional District. It's up for discussion and recommendation to the town council. So, Tom, you want to start, please?
So the red lines in your copy show the changes that the Planning Commission discussed the last 2 meetings. One, I think, was the regular meeting, and then also at the workshop that occurred more recently. Essentially, there was a lot of discussion.
Hold on for a minute, please. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, there was too much noise. Sorry.
Most of the discussion the last time centered on the hours of service. I think we probably spent the most time on, and I think the changes that I made are consistent with, I think, the direction that the Planning Commission wanted to go. But I do urge you to review that, make sure I got that correct. And I think the rest of this is probably pretty self-explanatory.
I actually don't recall the discussion of hours, but it could have been when I was away.
Yeah, it was at the workshop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it seems kind of late for like this Sunday, like going up to 10 p.m. on Sunday. I don't know. 10 p.m. seemed kind of late to me every day.
I think
Because it
this
depends
is
on what the.
consistent with the noise ordinance, which was where I was directed to go.
Yeah, you either, I had more restrictive hours in there, which I thought, because the use is neighborhood professional, it was decided on that maybe to just keep it, trying to be consistent, move it towards more of the noise ordinance hours. Upon researching the chart, I did see that limited commercial I believe it's limited commercial does have some hours set in. I'm not sure if it's the same as the noise ordinance or not, so.
All right, well, we're not.
Yeah.
You're just talking about another, you're not talking about the neighborhood, you're just saying that limited commercial has hours.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. Yes, ma'am. So,
And I think consistent with that, the discussion at the workshop, at the top of page 3, gives an opportunity at least for varying the hours of operation, either on a permanent or temporary basis, or maybe for a special event or something. Not sure that happens in this zone, but maybe it does. And essentially have, as I've written it, treated it more as a sort of like a subdivision regulation waiver that the Planning Commission can provide, rather than a true variance. A true variance approved by the Board of Appeals is usually a density or a measurement type of restriction that can be varied. So I thought it would probably be appropriate for this body to be the entity to grant a waiver
Okay.
when we're applied to for it.
Does any of the commissioners have any questions, concerns?
Well, this is clearly the direction we were discussing when to go in.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's a good idea.
and just pointing out, we did make the correction of the 500 feet wording in it that was pointed out at
Yeah,
the hearing or something for this too.
Page,
Okay. 4, I believe?
4,
Okay.
I'm sorry, F, is it?
Yeah,
Seven?
F7, okay.
Took the
Oh.
not out, so
Okay.
it now captures what was intended.
Okay.
Since this does involve one of our members' requests for rezoning, we're going to ask Martina to leave the room, to recuse herself. She can come back when we finish discussion, when we finish the vote. I don't have any other questions. Do I have a motion to send this with a recommendation, positive recommendation to the town council?
Yeah, second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we send ordinance number 2022-5 to the town council with a positive recommendation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. That will go to town council.
Oh, okay.
She'll be back. The next one, recommendation or introduction is a master plan rezoning request at 806 Park Avenue. The request to go from RE, residential existing, to CC, community commercial. Are the owners and their representatives here? No, she has to sit on your lap. Okay. John, do you want to, I'm sorry, John starts. Do you want to start with this, John? Okay.
Okay, so this is 806 Park Avenue. The owner applicant is Michael O'Brien, and his wife, of course, is just Michael, that applied for a request as part of the 2023 master plan to take his existing parcel that's zoned R3 and has requested to increase to community commercial. A little bit of history. Again, this is located on the corner of Ridgeville Road, Maryland Route 27, and the corner of Park Avenue. This was the applicant did request a well, again, the applicant has been operating his veterinary business from this location since 1987. Dr. Bryan did request a rezoning to community commercial back in the 2013 master plan update. His request was opposed by surrounding citizens and did not receive a favorable recommendation for the rezoning. And I have attached the letters from that request. Again, staff is not recommending the rezoning of this parcel currently. But I do say if this property is rezoned in the future, that a zoning of NP neighborhood professional be considered.
Okay, we'll hear from the owners.
Good evening. Hello. My name is Michael O'Brien, and my wife and I, Nancy, are here to discuss the 2023 master plan, and we are respectfully requesting community commercial zoning for 806 Park Avenue. We've all been eyewitness to the enormous growth of the area that began in the 1970s when Route 27 bypass was completed. At our property, Route 27 bisected two farms, creating our intersection with a two-lane country road, dirt shoulders, and no electronic traffic management. In 1989, the Twin Arts Shopping Center was built in what was a farm field across from 806 Park Avenue. In 1995, the 24-hour 7 post office was completed directly across the street from us. Next, 72 acres of beautiful serene forest behind us transformed into the Wildwood Senior Housing Development Senior Center and Library, plus a CC zone nursing home. Our neighbor to the east, the Carnival Grounds, was zoned CC last master plan. 806 Park Avenue has always been home to commercial uses. It housed a Studebaker repair shop and was later home to a commercial masonry contractor's business when I purchased it in 1988. Since then, we have operated a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week commercial veterinary clinic and retail business along with our home. 806 Park Avenue is surrounded by intense commercial activity, even to the point that Mayor Pat Rockenberg was strongly backing the use of our property as a contender for the location of the soon-to-be-built commercial police station. Today, traffic, commercial, and industrial activity centering at this intersection has dramatically increased, frankly, to the point where it is dangerous even to consider this property as residential or suitable to raise a family. Enormous traffic volume, noise, and congestion runs 24/7 adjacent to both front yards of 806 Park Avenue. EMS vehicles nearing our intersection are required to enunciate their presence with bullhorns and sirens. Medevac helicopters frequently use the Carnival Grounds with a flight path that is only a few feet over our roof, rattling the entire roof. At the last master plan, the town was reluctant to change any zoning for the properties on the Route 27 corridor until a corridor study was performed. This study was completed in 2016, and it concluded that regular traffic at our intersection is amongst the heaviest in the town. and this intersection has the most accidents of any other in our town by a factor of 2. It's now 7 years later. With the future development of the Beck property and Harrison-LaSheeran site, along with the potential future development of the Carnival grounds or the Pank property, one certainty is commercial activity and traffic surrounding 806 Park Avenue will continue to grow dramatically. Since our purchase in 1988, we have massively improved the property. Our industrial, commercial-rated woodworking shop enabled me to do the on-site restoration of our house and played an important role in the construction of the Rails to Trails, production of the trail signs, the caboose restoration project, restoration work at the Historical Museum, and other special projects within the town. With the blessing of the town, our property is used to exhibit advertising and displays promoting philanthropic and other town events. We've welcomed public access covered by our commercial liability insurance by sharing our property as a safe vantage point for crowds numbering in the hundreds to view and enjoy parades, fireworks, and other town events. We currently have no plans or contractual agreements to sell or develop the property. Our property is 1 acre, meaning only a handful of CC uses would even be possible. A CC designation would allow future changes only under the strictest dictates of the town's ordinances, regulations, and site plan process. Both of the past 2 town surveys and the town zoning code call for future commercial zoning to occur adjacent to areas already existing in the commercial zone. 806 Park Avenue solidly fits with both the code and the citizens' desires. Only CC zoning will give the possibility of preserving all the existing structures on our property. Limited commercial or neighborhood professional only allow for principal structures of 5,000 or 2,000 square feet respectively. We currently have more than 8,000 square feet of conditioned space. Which buildings would you want torn down to achieve compliance with anything other than community commercial? The evidence is here for you to see. From the beginning, we've worked hard and by the rules of our special exception to make this property appealing and have set an example of how restoration can continue to wring out the town's rich history while conforming with the law. I'd like to stress that there have been no complaints to date by the neighbors or the town about any activities performed by us at this site, including the operation of a commercial veterinary clinic and a retail business in over 35 years. Our future aim is to eventually repurpose current buildings on this property for medical, business, contractor, trades, and or professional office type uses. We don't envision any more traffic or noise generation from this change. We respectfully request the zoning change to align this property with the area's changed conditions, past and current uses, and to enable safely opening this corner to better serve the town's citizens. We've also made offers to both the Planning Commission and the Town Council by email to come on site and see the place. Seeing sometimes can make a difference in decisions that we all make. Thank you for your time and consideration. We'd be happy to answer any questions.
I'll start with questions from the commissioners, and then we'll go to public comment.
Sure.
Okay. Turn your mic on.
I actually turned it off.
Oh.
So it's been, I would say it's been currently being used more of neighborhood professional. And I feel that the location screams community commercial, but my rub there is that we like to put like a buffer, so it would be community commercial, maybe neighborhood professional. And I'm struggling with the immediate transition from community commercial to residential. But I wanted folks to know that I do think that corner screams community commercial.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
So you guys have the power to do that. It's the master plan. Downzone it to the next property next to us and make it neighborhood professional or whatever. I mean, that's an easy fix. Plus, you know, the setbacks are already there for us. I mean, our buildings actually screen neighbors on both sides of us, the size of our buildings. If we were to be neighborhood professional and we had to tear down buildings, there would be more noise flowing through to the Wildwood community and the neighborhood than there currently is now. Our buildings block that.
So what is it you cannot do right now with your special exception that you want to be able to do?
I don't know.
I mean, I'm just figuring out.
Thought about that. I mean, you know.
The special exception is just for a veterinary clinic.
Yes.
It can't be changed to an office building. It can't be changed to a medical facility building.
Okay.
And the square footage limits our size. I mean, there's no zoning category that no neighborhood professional, limited commercial that fits.
So as Scott mentioned, so you're backed up to residential, and you have residential next to you, and currently we need a buffer zone between a commercial property.
There are setbacks and there are buildings, and I would suggest to you the compromise is the size of the buildings themselves. That have, you know, you could take the buildings down and put a 35-foot buffer or whatever they are, but you're getting more buffer from the buildings that are currently there, and it's an incentive for us to utilize those buildings in the process that are also set back by residential.
Right. I mean, see, I don't know if this could happen, but I certainly wouldn't recommend taking down the buildings, but I would recommend trying to get another exception if you wanted to do something business-wise with those other buildings.
Yes, okay.
Because if that property becomes commercial and then you sell it, then whoever buys it can do whatever is allowed within the CC, and they can take down those buildings and they can put whatever is allowed within the property size. And I think that would be what concerns people. As you said, people aren't concerned about what you're doing. It's perfectly fine.
That's why you have setbacks.
Well,
if someone wants to come in there, under a commercial zoning situation and build a commercial building, that's why you have 40-foot setbacks. The property's on a commercial corner, and by the traffic studies, the most dangerous commercial corner in our town.
It's one of two.
The top one, by a factor of 2.
Sorry. Never mind.
Well,
I'm not going to argue with you, but you're not.
Right, and I think, but I don't have it. I don't know if it's in the archives, but I thought that when we discussed this at the last master plan, that there was the documentation that the east side of 27 was supposed to be the commercial side, which was why it was all developed, and that the west side was supposed to be residential. I mean, there might be somebody here who knows. That's just my recollection. But beyond that, it's just, I mean, I understand that you want to, why you want to do that.
The incentive is for me to keep it the way it is,
right?
Without the setbacks.
But you can't control what happens.
But that's
later.
why. But again, that's why you have the setbacks.
Right. But I think there's a lot of concerns that people have. But one of them is, you go commercial, and then the whole Park Avenue goes to commercial, and then what happens? I know you just said, and I didn't know before, you were there before Wildwood. Well, Wildwood got built.
I don't dispute that at all, but you all have the opportunity to cut that commercial creep by zoning the property next to me something other than commercial.
Well, they haven't
put in a request.
But you guys direct the master plan.
No, we don't rezone people's property who haven't requested to be rezoned. We can suggest, but people have come in even recently, and they said, no, I don't want that. I want to stay residential. So that's not what we do in the master plan. I think that you know that, Dr. O'Brien.
I think what he's referring to is if the neighbor would come and say, he's commercial, I want to be commercial, then that's when you go and say, no, we're stepping down, and this would be X, and the next house would be whatever.
Yeah, but that would be really difficult.
It's what you've done on Main Street by Carter Q and the vet clinic and the houses up there. That's how that came out.
And if people want to you always have, you have the power to zone. The town, the municipality has the power to zone or not to zone. If the town wants that to be commercial down Park Avenue, it's their choice, not my choice. You can stop that or allow it, and it's your choice and the elected official's choice. To allow it or not to allow it.
Doc, what is your neighbors, your direct neighbor on your sides
Are the neighbors here?
position? Are they?
Jesse.
No, Jesse. I don't know their name, but
He's signed
Jesse
a letter
Phillips.
in support of us. At our last one, we didn't go around this
I don't
time
think
to get
you were on the
letters out.
planning commission. We didn't do letters this time, but we have a previous,
He's
it's
been-
in the
he's been
records.
supportive of it
He's
before,
been supportive of us.
would he support being a neighborhood professional?
We haven't asked him, but we would.
Because
Commercial, limited commercial, then neighborhood professional. That's the buffer. So, so it's potentially turning everything commercial, but that doesn't really deal with Wildwood. So I don't know.
My concern is still what it was 10 years ago when we talked about it in great detail. In my opinion, you know, as a planning commissioner, there's a line that runs down the middle of.
Phil, can you speak closer to your mic?
There-
It's really tough for Deb to do the.
Okay, in my opinion, there's a line that runs down the middle of Highway 27. To the east is commercial. The look and feel and personality of the west side is residential. And I want to keep them separate. And I still feel the same way I did then.
Can I reply to that?
Sure.
So they did a corridor study, and the corridor is comprised of commercial on both sides for the majority of Route 27, both sides. And the mixed use has got a commercial component going into Center Street that was approved by the Planning Commission because and
Town
that's fine to
council,
have that
town
opinion.
council approved that
Yeah.
through a special
Council?
law, not the planning
Well,
commission. Just
yeah.
want to be clear.
Okay, yeah, but I mean, that's,
So what
that's.
I'm
what
sorry.
he's saying is
That's the way I feel. I still feel that way.
You're entitled, sir.
Yes, I am.
I need to, at this point, I would ask any people from the public who want to speak. Are there people that are interested in speaking on this subject?
Yeah.
I know.
Oh, okay.
Anybody else? Okay. 2, 3, okay. We'll give you 2 minutes, again, like we did before.
Okay, Dave Pyatt, 705 Park Avenue. I'm about 4 houses up, and I wouldn't really be directly impacted. And I have to say, Dr. O'Brien has been a good neighbor for 30-some years. The town, I think, had been generous in giving him the special exception, and I went through my notes, and I was actually at the Board of Appeals meeting in 1987, for what it's worth. But my primary concern, and I've seen it happen in other parts of town, where once you open the door, it's just a little crack. One person gets commercial. No matter what the reasons are, what promises are made, or what have you, it doesn't matter. Once that is zoned commercial, and you're struggling with this, I can see. Neighborhood professional, you really don't know what to do. Once you open that door and you make that piece of land commercial, then everybody next to it has the right to come in and make their property commercial. And it goes boom, 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 right down the block. And there's nothing you can do about it. You can wave your hands and talk about how it should be, you know, it's commercial-ish, but once you do it, that is irreversible. And that's my concern, that that whole block will go, and I've seen it in Ridgeville and South Main Street. I have a letter of support from my neighbors, Andrea Palmer and Robert Bell, on 703 Park Avenue. We are writing to to express our strong opposition to the proposed rezoning at Park Avenue and the Route 27 intersection, along with the connector for Beck Drive. Traffic and safety of pedestrians are major areas of concern. Traffic accidents already occur on a frequent basis. The rest of this has to do with the Beck property. It's the same letter for both, but I will leave this letter, I guess, with you for whatever record-keeping purposes.
Mr. Pyatt, do those two individuals live closer to 27 than your house?
They're next door, going the other way, actually. I have to say, there were a lot of people opposed to it. I talked to a lot of the seniors. I called one tonight, and it's cold out. You know, it's 25 degrees. They don't want to come, but there were at least 4 or 5 that are kind of against it. But it's a hard sell because I'm very supportive of Dr. O'Brien. I know he probably would like to throw me out the window, but I really, you know, I think he's somewhat genuine in wanting to do this thing, but you probably get about 80% of 85, 90% of what you want from neighborhood professional. It's not perfect, but to get that extra little bit out of it, you open up this door. And, you know, if I live next door, hypothetically, and all of a sudden, the light bulb comes on, gee, I could sell my property, bail out, and somebody will come in and get commercial because, the precedent set.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
So,
Anybody else want to speak? We'll ask it then, after everybody.
I'm Sheila Pyatt, 705 Park Avenue. 35 years ago, we were all young on the block, and we were told this young veterinarian wanted to open up a practice. Would we allow him with a special exception? We said yes. It went to the Board of Appeals. He was given a special exception, that if he closes, if he retires, it goes back to residential. So I don't understand why we're even discussing community commercial, when this is what the Board of Appeals said. And I have copies of everything. I don't know if you all have copies, but we have the copies. He signed it, it was done legally, and now we're discussing community commercial. The block has not changed. The neighborhood has changed because we have the senior complex. That whole circle would be affected. There's one woman that I'm not going to mention by name, but she basically had to sell her house down South Main Street, and that's where the inn is right now, and her house butts up to his property. So she's not too happy. She's very upset. I said I would say something on her behalf, but I'm not going to mention the names. And so the neighborhood has not changed. He just thinks it's changed. Traffic, yeah, if they, do the Beck Drive thing, probably we will be affected. But we have private homes, and we have the senior complex right behind us. And the big thing is, we went through the Board of Appeals 35 years ago. We did not have to do that. If I had to do this again, never would I give permission for anybody to open up any kind of practice because of what we've been going through.
You have 15
So
seconds
thank
left.
you.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah, thank you.
May I respond a little bit?
Can I ask the people to talk first? I want to get through everybody.
I'm John Superson. I live at 1312 Scotch Heather Avenue in Mount Airy. I've known Dr. O'Brien for 20 years. And I testified before as a commander of a local county police department about that dangerous intersection before. But I want to put my 2 cents in because of the fact is, yeah, that agreement was signed many years ago. Times have changed. That whole intersection, that whole corridor over there is commercial. Dr. O'Brien isn't forecasting a gas and go, a drugstore like was put into this email, or any other egregious planning proposal that was brought forward this evening. He's proposing a CC, which is the one individual who indicated that it screams CC. But, you know, I've met just as many people that live in that neighborhood by going over there, the people that live behind in Wildwood that are actually his customers that do agree with the CC proposal. There's just as many individuals that do agree with this, that come to his practice, and everyone that's in this audience and people that were here this evening all know about that intersection, and that intersection does not scream residential. There's no way that screams residential. And a lot of these individuals that are here that I've recognized, they've also been on 4th of July sitting on that lawn. They know exactly what that property is. So I'm asking the board, the Planning Commission, just to go beyond the smoke screen, okay? And to be quite frank, they haven't been friendly neighbors, as Mr. Pyatt has mentioned. And this has reared its ugly head, it seems like every 5 to 8 years. But I'm asking an open mind to look into this. Times have changed. And like I said, I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
So Martina, you wanted to, oh, it was one.
Gary Fry, 4021 Twin Arch. I recognize Doc's point in that it's a commercial setting. It is not a residential with where it is located. You have the highway on there. It is the most accidents on 27 from the traffic study. The Planning Commission has said time over time that this is just rezoning. You then, if someone wants to redevelop the property, that's another step in the process. So if someone decides to come in and tear the property down, that comes back to the Planning Commission. I've heard this many times. So just the rezoning to allow a use with the existing structures, I don't think is an unreasonable request. I think arguing that the west side of 27 is residential and the east side is commercial is, you're looking at a development of 400 residents, less than a quarter mile up the road. Go another half mile south, you've got residents on that side. You've got the post office on the west side. It's a mixed bag, but I think if there was a way to fit it into the neighborhood professional box, I think that would be fantastic. But the way the code's written, that's not what works. So I would support Doc O'Brien's community commercial.
Thank you.
So, go ahead.
Anyone else? Okay, Martina, go ahead.
I just had a quick, because
You gotta talk loud.
Sorry. So with the neighborhood professional, you're saying you're not in favor of that because you think that it would mean that some of your structures would have to be taken down.
Sure.
I was just wondering if Tom could clarify, if it got rezoned neighborhood professional, he wouldn't have to take any buildings down if
Not
they're
right
already
now.
existing. Not right now?
Couldn't use them.
Yeah, I don't understand that claim.
Okay, that's what I was confused about that as well, because I thought neighborhood professional meant using existing structures.
But my thing is, he would still have his special exception.
Yes.
Now he would be neighborhood professional. Would he then have to, because he has a special exception, would he then have to tear down he would leave everything the same, correct?
Yes, he'd be, in effect, a non-conforming use that pre-existed his new zoning classification.
Okay.
So one thing that, and Mr. Pyatt and Mrs. Pyatt, I understand what you're saying about the creep, and I try to, when I look at situations, I try to think about creep, as far as whether or not it opens cans of worms. But Mr. Fry had a good point about being able to control that situation if it wanted to be controlled. And I think, the property in question is this property on the corner. And I made the point that I do think it is community commercial in its own existence. I don't know, when you start putting together the scenario of the entire block becoming community commercial or more, or something else, I don't like that. I wouldn't vote for that. I don't promote that. But that's not what's in question tonight. What's in question is that piece of property. And that piece of property, I mentioned that I thought it was community commercial, and it's what that's what the O'Briens are requesting. And so I can't predict the future. I don't know what's going to happen to the post office. Maybe the post office moves. I don't know. But that's what we're trying to predict, right? What's happening going to happen down the street. Well, I don't know the future, but the request is this property, and we have to consider what could happen. But I don't think I can make a decision on predicting the future beyond what's being requested and the facts that I have in front of me. So I would
Right,
just
but
put
we
that
can't
out.
make this property, we can't zone this property commercial because it borders residential property
Because it borders
under the
residential.
code.
The community commercial
Correct.
without putting the buffer in.
Right. Which is
Ma'am-
a big part of what was going on 10 years ago, in addition to what.
I don't understand that. What buffer are we talking?
That's why the
Neighborhood
council created limited commercial and neighborhood professional out, before I was on this body, so over 12 years ago, was that another property is not, the zoning isn't changed, it's more intense than the zone next to it. It's a gradual de-intensification, so it's commercial, then limited commercial, then neighborhood professional, then residential.
What about on the other two sides of the property?
Well,
So what's one to do if they're, like I am, on the corner of one, if not the most intense from a traffic standpoint, intersection, from an accident standpoint? I'm in a commercial use across the street, even though it's a special exception.
You're commercial now.
And I'm more intense than any other commercial property around, if you go by comparing properties.
I'm not sure what you mean by
From a
that.
use standpoint, 24-hour zoning, 24/7, okay?
Right, so you're already getting what you need. I mean, that's like,
No,
that's the other, like,
but what-
that's the
so-
other confusion. Like, why do you need to change when you're able to do what you want to do?
I am able to do what I want to do, but I can't do anything else. And I'm suffering the consequences of not being able to do something else because
It can
it's-
only be a vet clinic in the special exception. So if
Right,
he wants
that's
to
right.
change it to a medical office building or rent out office space, he can't do that.
Well, I don't know. If you become neighborhood professional, which you can do, which Tom just confirmed, you would just continue and you would be a non-conforming use, then you would be allowed to use those buildings
No,
as
it wouldn't
office
be-
buildings.
No, you don't understand. The code has for neighborhood professional that you can only use, 2,000 square feet.
You would be a non-conforming use. That's what Tom just explained.
If you get a zoning change, it doesn't mean you have to change every bit of your property to make it conform with. If there were a new property that wanted to develop a new business, they would have to comply with this code. But the fact that you may be outside some of the limits of the NP zone, just because you get the NP zone, it doesn't mean you have to start tearing down buildings, because now we've got to make the property comply with your new zoning classification.
I was challenged on this very property, and a circuit court judge by the name of Luke Burns ruled in my favor because that building was a non-conforming use to my special exception. That doesn't mean that someone else can't challenge that same building and quite possibly win on it because of the square footage of the building or the square footage of all the buildings on my property.
So
I have 8,000 square feet of conditioned space. And no accessory building, which my clinic is allowed in, bear with me, in my notes. An accessory use building in the limited commercial, I mean, the NP is, no, it's the, bear with me, please. I'm sorry to take up your time.
Yeah, I think it's like 500 square feet. We just did this.
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
did this.
they,
Limited
was 500.
commercial is 350 square feet. And, neighborhood professionals, 500 square feet. That building's 1,200 square feet. I went through this before.
Right, which so hypothetically, if you're given
pre-existed.
tomorrow the NP zone,
Yes.
that building with that size will have pre-existed per
Yes.
property's designation as an NP zone.
But no
That does not mean that you then have to start tearing down buildings
Okay.
to make your property conform with your new zoning designation.
So my new zoning designation could not go into neighborhood professional because my whole property's got 8,000 square feet. 2,000's the limit.
But you're a non-conforming use.
You're
You're
a
already using it. That's what he's explaining to you.
I don't,
You could be, and I'm sure that we could, that the town staff can put that in writing, like, so you have a formal document that if someone challenges you, that you can defend it, because you've been using it for, what, 39 years or however long it's been?
35,
35.
30,
So you
32,
can
whatever.
continue to use it, and you can use these accessory buildings as an office.
As the
Now, to
principal
his
structure.
credit now, of course, on the other hand, non-conforming uses, when there's a change in use.
Yes.
A substitution in use later down the line, you're supposed to scale back the operation.
But that's
That
if
does
he
not
stops
mean your
the vet
structure
practice
has
though,
to-
right?
What's that?
But that's if he continues the veterinary practice but adds the medical office or whatever he said he wanted, then he'd still be doing the vet practice.
But it would go back to residential if he ever leaves.
Yeah.
And so
was the
that
agreement.
you won't be able to,
I mean, that was
that's
the-
not a,
There's no
but
agreement
that's
in
not
that Board of
residential.
Appeals meeting. I've got the minutes of the meeting, and I also have a stenographic
I
copy
assume
of
that
it.
that's what you told people, or when you
I
wanted them
didn't
to
tell
support you.
people anything that I was gonna revert back to residential.
No, I didn't say you told them that. That's the way it works. That's the way the special
if-
exception works.
Well, right.
I mean, I'm not gonna argue about that. I wasn't here.
So now it's a circular argument, then you go back to residential
I mean, the whole bottom line is
on
that
a commercial
commercial
corner.
doesn't go
That was
next to
my point.
residential. I mean, that's kind of like the bottom line.
You guys set the rules on that.
It's in the code. It's in the code.
Madam Chair, may I ask the town attorney a question here to clarify something?
Yeah.
Commission member Dixon said that the community commercial currently has the requirement of, say, the next door use needs to be less intensive. Isn't the council hearing
Yes.
that exact thing? So it's not currently in the code
Correct.
that, okay, I just want to clarify.
Well,
get
what
my
is
memory
what
straight.
is in the code?
Okay,
And-
so what I think you may be referring to is the NP zone is intended to provide a less intensive commercial zone than LC district and must only be assigned, the NP must only be assigned where adjacent to a more intensive commercial zone, such as the LC, CC, or any other more intense commercial zone. That's probably what you're thinking. Now, the current proposal before the town council would add essentially that.
Well, also not just that, but limited commercial is similar. So basically, the code is currently, when you look at the different provisions, they have to be consistent. So you can't say you can't put limited commercial next to residential, but you can put community commercial next to residential, because that doesn't make any sense. And when
That's why it changed.
well, right, but even without it, I mean, the courts, the Court of Appeals, when, like, for instance, in one of my cases, looked at the Consumer Protection Act and the Debt Collection Act, and you look at every every, you look at them all together and you say, okay, well, this is how we're interpreting this. I mean, a court wouldn't look at CC and say, you can put CC next to residential, but you can't put limited commercial next to residential, because that would be ridiculous.
So how did community commercial go into the carnival grounds?
I voted against it.
How did it go in there? It's against against Conestoga Heights, which is a totally residential area.
Does it
It's
actually
against
border
me.
that? I'm not sure it borders. Does it border that?
Yes, yes, it
Not
does.
sure. Well, anyway, I don't
Conestoga
know.
Heights, well, and it also
I voted
borders
against
me.
it.
I'm an adjacent property owner.
Yep.
So, I mean,
But see, like, Route 27 is a huge demarcation.
Yeah.
You're refusing to acknowledge, and.
I'm intrinsic to the corridor, which is zoned for the most part community commercial.
Well, the post office is zone RE, and it just happens to be a post office because apparently you can't tell them no. So, and if they leave, that will revert to residential. So,
But it shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be.
I mean, that shouldn't be residential. If the post office leaves.
It reverts back to residential.
But we would probably have to reconsider that, right?
No, it automatically reverts back. It's automatic.
I'm saying, given its location and the amount of traffic around it, you wouldn't put a house on that lot,
There's all
right?
kinds of houses right next to it.
No, but on that corner
Next to the
though.
post office.
Right, but that
House is
corner.
right there.
Adjacent to the post office is a community commercial property
Right
located on
across
the Beck
street.
property.
There's houses, you go down to the
I
left,
lived in
there's
one of them.
townhouses.
I'm on one side of them, yes, but on their north side is a commercial building. The next building
Okay, but
is on the Beck
there's
property.
also residential.
I just think
it's almost like mixed use in that area.
So, back to a previous question of commercial creep. You guys have the capability of stopping that. I can't stop it. You as a governing body have that opportunity. I still go back to the fact that it's cleaner and it's more appropriate to zone it currently with what's against it. Carnival grounds, a more intense use across the street would be the post office. It's more intensive.
But we
I
can't
do-
stop it. If you go
And that's what-
commercial and your next door neighbor wants to go commercial, it would be literally impossible to stop.
Why would it be impossible?
Because whatever yours property becomes after you sell it later, it's gonna be a much more intensive commercial use than you would use it for while you were still here. I mean, that's just the way it works. I mean, we just
I don't
did it. In
agree
fact,
with that.
Yes, you mentioned it with the neighborhood professional. Everybody down there, it's like you have the cappuccino, so then everybody else wants to become neighborhood professional, and then somebody will want to become limited commercial because they'll be next to somebody who's neighborhood professional. That's just the way it works.
I don't agree with that.
But we can also say no to that, right?
I've been doing this 12 plus years now, and I've seen it, so you don't have to agree, but that's kind of my experience.
So, does anybody have any other questions? Does anyone have a motion? The staff is recommending not rezoning the property. Is there a motion to?
Well, wait, the request is whether it's community commercial, right?
No, my recommendation.
His recommendation is it to be zoned NP.
I'm saying not to, I'm not recommending rezoning of this parcel currently. That's what I'm saying.
I'll make the motion that we, consistent with the staff recommendation, that we do not rezone this property community commercial. If the property owners would like to be rezoned neighborhood professional, then I would recommend doing that.
Is there a second to this?
I'll second.
Before we make the vote, I am going to abstain to this vote. I did not recuse myself because I am not a direct neighbor. I do, however, live on Park Avenue, so I am not going to vote. I'm going to abstain. but I can run the vote. So all those in favor of the staff recommendation of not recommending rezoning of this parcel currently, if the property is rezoned in the future, or if the owners of the property would like, then that we'll consider neighborhood professional. If they want it, we'll give it neighborhood professional. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
It's 3-1, so it passes. Okay. So we have 3 master plan rezoning requests. 1801 South Main Street, 1701 South Main, 1703 South Main, and 1709 South Main. 01, 03, and 09. Are you all still here? You're 01. You're 01. I'm asking is 1701. I'm sorry, 1701, 1703, and 1709. 01. Okay. These are all properties that border the Voslo property.
Yeah, I meant to go by there and I didn't get a chance.
They're on the same side of the street. Yes, he'll show it to you right here.
1701, 1703, 1709.
How do you want to do this?
I'm in a quandary. They all want a VCC.
The way it is currently,
It's residential.
yeah, it's residential, and some of them are next to residences who don't want a BCC, right?
Correct.
Okay, then how do we do that?
That is up to you.
I'm a neighborhood professional.
I'm going to ask those 3, would you consider neighborhood professional at this point?
Maybe the other side of the street should be C2. Are these all?
I would like to be able to, has anyone talked to those 2 property owners that are not here this evening?
Where are these numbers? 1701.
So again, 1701 is at the top. 1703 is this, no, excuse me. 1701 is this item right here.
Okay.
Parcel. 1703 and 1709.
Where'd your mouse go, the last one?
Right there, right next to 1701.
And John, what are they going for?
They are requesting community commercial, CC,
The other 2, which are the other 2 that are not?
the 2 in the middle.
And
And
they
what's
just,
that triangle up there? Is that any?
That's owned by the
Yeah,
town.
that's town.
Part of the circle.
and the 2 they just haven't requested, or they've specifically said we don't want a change?
I did have one person who said they did not want it. The other one, I've never received any correspondence back from them.
Okay.
Are those lots big enough to do community commercial without being strung together? Maybe because you couldn't have a commercial business and then a resident and then a commercial business.
One, and then we have
Like,
another commercial.
It's too small to do that. So eventually, if you were to make it all community commercial, if the block clears out, then it could be used for something significant, right?
Correct. Like you're saying, an individual parcel zone CC like that could really not support,
Anything.
well, not to
Except
say
for
anything,
stuff,
it's limited because again, with parking and et cetera, setbacks. So you're absolutely right.
So it's kind of,
You're zoning it properly for the future, probably.
Right. but what you
Yes.
just said, we can't do that, right? You're looking at
well,
what's
that's
there
a good point.
before you
That's a good point.
right
I
now.
am being hypocritical.
But on the other hand, neighborhood professional could at least be,
See owner 1701?
What about limited?
Okay. You don't want to do neighborhood professional?
Okay. Right.
1703?
Is 1703?
Is 1703 here?
well, they're not
Nope.
that committed. And then what's the
How
other?
about 1709? Yes?
Okay.
You don't want neighborhood professional either?
Okay. But they don't want it, it's fine.
Okay. I wasn't here at the master plan, but it seemed to me that when you had a row like that was starting to happen, that we could say, that we could do the whole row as community.
You cannot change somebody's zone if they did not request it, especially if they said they don't want it. You don't have the right to do that.
Well, they're saying they don't want NP. I don't know if they're saying.
No, the other two people that you talked to.
Said you talked to one who doesn't want community commercial for their property,
Correct.
so they don't want it.
Okay. We're going to put those on the back burner. That I don't, since I'm kind of stuck here because I see why you want the community commercial, and I understand it. And it would be advantageous if the whole row went. However, we can't do that because we have the other two, the residential. We can't zone them if they don't want to be rezoned.
What's across the street there?
That's their houses. Can we,
all NP
wait,
as well.
but can we get
That's
a
all
clarif-
NP?
Can we get clarity?
No. No, that's
What's
residential, RE.
What's across that narrow street there?
That's RE, residential.
So you're gonna put all commercial across this narrow, I mean, Dr. O'Brien was claiming that Route 27 was like he's adjacent to commercial, and you're gonna put commercial across this narrow street where there's all these other residences?
Would that be? The corridor.
The corridor is changing, but I see your point. I understand your point.
Those are residences, right?
Right.
Right across, and how wide is that street? I've been down that.
How wide's that street, Barney?
South Main.
Extended, South Main extended. Okay.
20 feet max, maybe? I'm just saying.
It's not even 35 feet. It's not even a regular.
Well, most people think it's the on-ramp to 70.
Okay, so we gotta.
I don't know.
I don't know what to do.
Any,
I'm concerned about consistency.
Yes. Yes,
Terry,
go ahead.
can I- while Mr. Vosloo gets up, can I ask for a clarification from the town attorney on the ability for the planning commission to
No, up here.
change in, I want to say, in mass zoning if a majority of it wants it?
I'm sorry, what's?
He wants to know, can you change the property zone if somebody didn't ask for it? If somebody wants to say residential,
If we do it within the master
can
plan.
you force them to be rezoned as?
In the master plan process.
Yes, but you can, but what good does it do? They get to continue the current use.
Well, that's right.
Into the,
Yeah,
so, maybe you have a buffer in name,
yeah,
but they continue to operate, they have that right to
Yeah.
continue.
right, but what you'd be doing,
Fair piece of
yeah.
property, you could, yes, as long as it's not arbitrary increases,
as long as it's
you can downzone a piece of bare land.
down zone, up zone. We're talking about up zoning.
You can upzone it.
Yeah.
as long
So
as
it's
not
like
arbitrary.
those places where like they want it to become commercial, and then there's that last house standing who refuses to leave. So that's basically the position that
Yeah.
we would be choosing to put people in. So maybe we should do a little more fact finding on that.
I think we need to hold off on those three until a later date, and I apologize for you having to stay here for so long, especially with the little one. We're trying to do what's best for everybody here, and it's just, Carl, go ahead.
No, I don't have anything.
No.
Oh, him.
Oh.
Sorry.
Mr.
Sorry.
He's
Okay,
Carl.
Not Carl, too. Okay, sorry.
Kurt Voslow.
I'm sorry, Kurt. That's
Kurt.
right.
I
See, this has
answered
been
anything.
I'm sorry.
14187 Day Avenue in Mount Airy. Of course, that is mine and my brother's property. We've been here before. Over the past couple years, we had DMS developers and the attorneys and everything. And if I'm not mistaken, the last time we were here, they proved that the zoning board made a mistake in the last master plan, which was 10 years ago. And I think that was agreed on, but That, it wasn't?
Because you didn't apply in the last master plan. That was the issue. But
No,
go ahead.
we're talking about the one part that went through the map.
Right.
Right, but that was way
But-
before the last master plan, which was.
Right.
But anyway, go ahead. Don't worry about that. Just say what you want to say without.
Okay,
worrying about what-
but anyway, I thought that it was because they proved a mistake was made, that it wasn't rezoned or even looked at, even though we didn't apply, it wasn't looked at in the last master plan. So it was my impression that was proven, the mistake was made. So now it should be able, now that we are coming back, because of its locale and everything, why it can't be rezoned.
It can be, and that's what, when we were discussing this before, we said we weren't going to make the rezoning because it wasn't within the master plan.
Right.
We weren't within the master plan. Now we are within the master plan, and you have come back and requested CC.
Yes. But it's because other people don't want something, it limits what I can do.
That 1801 is another example of a CC. But if you're going to, but the houses that butt up against it, maybe limited commercial and across the street limited commercial? I don't know, but it shouldn't, that shouldn't stay residential. So
No.
if we do agree that it should be, no, but if that becomes commercial, then, and I don't think, nobody has to do anything just because that row of houses has become commercial with that block, but they could. And the other issue is that if those folks in those lots attempt to release their property in the future, they're not going to be able to do it as residential. So, because it's going to be butted up against community commercial. So I think we have to consider that. And it is pocketed in a nice little package there where it probably should be rezoned. But we have to think about, because that's quarantined, we really are limiting its bleed. And I just wonder.
I personally will, yeah, I know. I know.
If it's commercial, then maybe across the street, it should be limited commercial or something. I don't know. But
Or neighborhood professional.
or neighborhood professional, but it would need to be upgraded to something above residential. But, I mean, I don't think it's any doubt that 1801 needs to change. And there is a direct impact to that. I mean, changing that creates a big problem for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5
5
lots.
houses, of which 3 of those houses have requested a commercial zone.
I mean, it
And
doesn't
that's the
hurt somebody.
majority of them, but
Well, can't you just leave the 2 that don't want it? Can't you just leave them as they are?
no, because they're stuck in the middle.
Right.
If they were on the end, yes.
Right.
But they're stuck in the middle. But we obviously, it's 1701.
But you don't have to do anything just because the zoning changes.
Right.
That's what Tom was alluding to. You don't have to.
There's
you don't
nothing
have
that's
to-
going to be
you
done
don't-
right
you
now
don't have
because
to
you're
s-
still going to live in them.
Right, you don't have to sell your house.
We need a buffer between a commercial zone, community commercial, and a residential. Would 1701 consider limited commercial?
Yeah, but that's the one at the top. Is that 1701?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, the property next to 1801, what is that?
1709?
I'm sorry, 1709. I'm sorry.
She has applied for commercial, Miss Fleming.
Yeah, she's requested CC.
She's requested CC.
Yeah, the only 2 that haven't requested CC are these 2 here.
And the next lot belongs to Frankie Eliano, so why doesn't he want it?
So John,
Here, right?
John,
Yes.
can you clarify? So the site actually goes, it's down where it says 1801, and then it goes all the way up, so it's bordering all of those.
It's
Right,
bordering
that's
all
what
of
I'm
them.
trying to say.
All right.
That's all commercial.
I think before we talked about maybe you'd have part community commercial, and then you could create a buffer if you had part of it not
Right,
community
so
commercial.
this is an interesting piece here. So again, this could be one of your options. You could rezone all this CC, you can make all this LC. And the funny thing is, there's this one piece of property right here
It's commercial.
that is not zoned commercial. It has no zoning over top of
Oh,
it
that's right,
currently.
that's right.
It's just, it's the
That's
CSX, I understand that, but we don't have any zoning attributed to that. So we could make that NP, which then creates a buffer between the CC, LC, LC to the residential that's up here.
Yeah.
That's an option.
That's what it looks like to me.
But, and again, we discussed this at the workshop as well. I
Yes,
don't
yeah,
remember.
we did, a little bit.
I
I,
You had like 3 workshops for the 1 week I was away.
Oh, we were working.
Been a little bit too
Whose fault is that?
done here.
I kind of like that idea. I like the idea because that whole corner, I mean, it's changing.
Right, and you could
I
still
think-
even do,
have you
you
taught-
could do
I
all
think-
this CC and do this all LC and this NP, and it still creates a buffer between the new commercial, possibly, you know, you could do all this commercial, what is up at the pen here, all this commercial and this LC, or you can do this commercial and this LC and this LC with that one parcel that doesn't have any designation over it.
Now, the only problem with that is if that giant island becomes commercial, it could be something grand, and then if you're across the street and you're not rezoned or you're LC, it's gonna be, it could be intrusive.
Well,
but-
let's think about this too. So in the future, this is a future annexation 30 years from now or whatever, maybe.
And
of
it's-
the South Main annexation, then that's
Talk about
supposed to be
going into the future.
OPE, right, is what that's in our master
Not looking
plan.
at what's right in front of us.
Designated as OPE. So, again, this is not an easy decision to make.
Easy? Not easy.
And
that triangle,
Which triangle?
that one, that's owned by the,
RE, and it's owned by the town and it's owned RE.
your house is the next one down. And that parcel that the town owns is gonna be used for this circle. So I understand why he wants to be CC.
Well, I've told it before, in the name of progress, that farm has been divided up twice to where now it's nothing. In the name of progress, 40, which is now 70 went through, and then when my parents had it, 27 went through, the bypass went through. They didn't want it, but in the name of progress, it got taken. So now in the name of progress, finish the damn thing. You know, what are you leaving it there for? You're not getting any revenue off of it. If you build something on it, at least your town will get some revenue from it. Jobs, whatever. But just leaving it set idle is not doing anything any good.
I think we need to leave that, I think we need to have that whole side community commercial, the other side limited commercial.
I think you're right.
So you want us to do that without checking with?
No, we have to check on the other side. I'm not saying do it right now, no. No, but I mean, I'm trying to, I think that's the
That
best
street
thing to do.
divides them, so there's a buffer in the street.
Correct.
They are connecting.
Be able to stay residential with that activity, like it would have to be some limit question.
As Tom is alluding to, all these houses here can continue to stay a house and operate as a house, even though it's in the LC zone. You know, and even when they sell, it doesn't mean it has to go, I don't know if it has to revert to an LC use then, or could it remain a residential use once it went, changed ownership?
Could remain in residential use.
Right. It's just zone limited commercial or community commercial. So the right to live there and still, and this was a big question that came up in one of the workshops, is does your taxes increase by changing the zoning? And I think that's a no.
No.
I did reach out to taxation and, thank you. And they said no.
I think we need to talk with those folks who live on the other side.
Yes, I do.
Oh.
Oh, hello, well, we're talking to you.
Let them talk.
Yeah, come up. hear your thoughts, your opinions.
Yeah, so we're Ann Moeller, David Salali. We just bought 1802. We hate this idea. Like, hate it. Wanted to live in a peaceful residential neighborhood, want to raise my family there, don't want this, certainly don't want my lot to be anything commercial. I just bought my house. It's a house. It's a house from 1900. It's been a house forever. Leave it a house.
Can you
Point out which one's yours, please.
You're at the top, or?
That one.
One up. I
One
think.
up, yeah.
Yeah.
Middle ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, right across the street from 1801. Yes,
Just
literally bought it Friday.
3 days ago.
Thank you.
I'm glad you came to this meeting.
Yeah, Friday.
So do you have any of your neighbors here?
Yeah, he
Yeah,
lives
they're
next
here,
door.
they're here.
Jim's-
Hey, we got some
Yeah,
people
I'm glad
here.
you said something.
You guys, okay,
Please speak one at a time.
yes.
Well, I just don't really understand then if, first of all, the row on the right that's in question, if you don't have the people needed to zone that community commercial, then you can't do it anyway, right? And then even if you zone all that and the people on the other side of the street, first of all, that buffer is pathetic. Okay, let's not even call that a buffer. It's like 50 feet maximum. If we get some commercial properties popping up over there, that's definitely going to be intrusive. It's going to infringe on us as the residents of the other side of the street. So I don't really understand the question here.
What's the name of your road? Are you, is it South Main? Still?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're on the other side.
So my name is Jim Archer. I live at 1710 South Main. I bought the house about 3.5, 4 years ago. And again, the thing that brought us to this neighborhood was it was peaceful, it was quiet. We had lived in Frederick before and we decided to leave there to move to a little bit more country. And the fact is we're, bordering on the farm is great. We like looking at the cows when they're occasionally there. And, the proposed use of community commercial for the other side of the street, I believe would infringe. It does not appear to be like a very good thing. There's very little access on the road. I suppose when the circle comes in, it might get a little bit better, but it's getting here was 5 minutes of waiting for traffic to get past because it's a blind intersection coming up both sides of the street as you wait on the end of that to go on to the rest of South Main. So again, I am not in favor of this and would like to stay residential.
Anybody else?
I'm not speaking into the microphone. I'm sorry, I'm getting tired.
Okay, I'm Joe Council, 1708 South Main Street. And, well, it seems change the character of our neighborhood entirely to have all that traffic coming through.
Comes through anyway.
Well,
I think it's a ramp to 70.
yeah, but,
Even more Wine Fest is terrible. I have to put a code
well,
in my driveway.
I know,
Okay.
that's true.
I can't
But
hear my daughter play out.
Please let him speak and
So
then you can go up
let
and
him speak and then you can talk.
Well, yeah, I hate to limit the use of that land, but it would certainly change the neighborhood, and we wouldn't be able to let my grandchildren ride their bikes down at the end. My wife and the two neighbors across the street used to sit at the crest of the hill in their lawn chairs in the middle of the road to make sure that no speeding traffic would run over the children who are riding down on the dead end part of the street. I don't think that would be practical with a commercial thing there.
You want to say anything else before?
I'll take care of the board.
Okay.
Come on, Lee.
1808 South Main Street, Lee Hagewood.
And I'm Mike Hagewood, so go ahead.
That's my dad. Basically, right there on where Day Avenue is, the RE on that. Yep, that one right there. We've been
curious about the signs, see it popped up across the street there. Personally, I have mixed feelings about it, really, because it's, it is a nice dead end place down there. Like, they get a lot more attention up there with people turning around. We still get people turning around down at the bottom too. The old nice farmhouse, like, I really like those, and 1801, that's cool too. Like, I'm a fan of those. But then again, it's like 70s right there, and it's so loud. Like, you don't notice how loud that is until you live there for a little while. Like it adds up. It wears on you a little bit. Like, and you don't realize it until you go away and then come back, and there's that 70 going through there. So I have mixed feelings about it. It's nice. It's a little bit quiet, but then it's also not really that quiet. And I feel like that whole other side there and that lot down there, it just screams like community commercial on the Carroll side, But then if that all gets developed, then it really changes the whole other row, on the Frederick side. So, in the long-term plan, the 2013 map, I guess, or whenever they did that for the long-term plan, that whole development or that whole area on that side of 70, looked like it was going to be more commercial type stuff. So I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it. I could kind of go either way because, just like you're saying, it doesn't necessarily mean that just because it's community commercial right now that it's all going to be community commercial. Like, you can still keep your house, you can still live in it. Those farm fields back there, there's not a whole lot they can do with it, so I'm fine if you want to put, something in there down there, but long term, I really don't see that whole development being houses. I really feel like it's more commercial in the long-term plan, really, of that whole area, based on traffic, the circle. Developers are going to want those properties in the long term. The price is going to go up. So I probably went over my 2 minutes.
Okay, I wasn't timing you all, I'm sorry.
So go ahead and start.
Okay.
My name is Mike Hagwood, and 1808, right there on Day Avenue. I have a mixed feeling on this also. I would not want to be in your seat. I can see the dilemma here. I also appreciate the neighbors that I have, and I'm also listening to them. I understand what we do have. I also see the needs and the wants of the city, planners, and the progression of what the city wants to do. I do appreciate the attempts to try and limit the amount of traffic that does get down there. The attempts that have been tried, signs, people are blind, that's all I can think. I think you guys have a tough job, and I support you in what you do. I think you're trying to do what's the best for Mount Airy. And I don't want to create a war in this little area either. So I'm going to leave the judgment up to you, and also try and keep the peace that way too. So
let me give you a perspective of the decision here, because I don't see it as it's almost inevitable that 1801 is commercial. I mean, we've already talked about what could be there. What I see this as is it's not trying to project the changes or invoke a change. It's more about protecting those people, the people who own those lots.
Yes.
That's how I see it. So, we can, and I say protect you, meaning that someday somebody is going to knock on your door and say, hey, how much can I buy your house? And they won't do it if it's residential.
Correct.
Across from something that's significant. Yeah. And so while nobody has to change a single residence in that entire corridor, no matter what we zone it, you're going to, if something starts to happen, you're going to find yourself in a bad spot to be able to get rid of the property. And I'm not saying that's going to happen and someday you're going to have to get rid of the property. But if you want to get rid of the property, you're going to have a tough time getting rid of it because of what could be happening on this side and on that side in the future, as John had projected. So I don't look at it as changing it to invoke change. It's more about changing it to protect the residents, to be able to ensure that your investment, you can use your investment the way you want to.
Correct.
And that's the real tough decision here, because I mean, we all can kind of agree what might be the right thing to do in that case, but we also don't want to invoke change, because I don't think anybody wants to see that become an industrial corridor.
Well, that was my concern. That is, if a convenience store or gas station goes into that site, is one of the entrances going to have to be on the back side that's going to go through the neighborhood? And if it's classified, and I don't,
We have no idea. We have no idea. That's a.
Well, I mean,
right.
Right.
What you're saying, where the 1801 comes all the way down and like further down, because it can't go through your backyard. I mean, it can't go through your yard.
Like if the entire if all these parcels and 1801 are
Oh,
commercial,
all the parcels
then of
in
course they
1801?
can come in. See, I actually think that triangular should be CC or limited commercial on this side, this South Main side, and should be RE or neighborhood professional on the side that borders the street that's across from your property.
You're saying split the parcel, like split the 1801?
Which ones did you say NP?
Just everything that borders on the, whatever this is.
The
south.
Carroll side would be
The Carroll side.
and then the Frederick side.
Was the Frederick side across the street?
Yes.
Well, I'm not talking about that. What I said, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay, that's
No,
not what you're saying.
No, I'm saying, these are both South Main Street, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
One's in
Carroll.
So the South Main Street over here,
The Carroll side.
that part of this property, 1801, should be commercial or limited commercial, and the other side, on the Carroll side, should be neighborhood professional or RE, because that's the residential.
No,
And
that-
behind you, you have residences, you have that, what's the road
But that's
that-
considered, that's out of city limits, so.
There's still, I don't care if it's out of city limits, there's residences.
You're talking about up here?
Yes,
here.
the ones
Oh, no,
that,
no, you're talking about.
I'm talking about the ones that Sheila Pyatt was referring to, where they had to close off so people can access it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's down.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
house, yeah.
Yeah, it's not that far, so it's not just like, it's commercial on this side, of the Voslo parcel, and it's not commercial on the other side of the Voslo parcel, and where all these 5 houses are, because you have then all this other residential, so I don't think it's like so obvious, but.
Well, that was limited commercial there.
So there's LC already
Right.
right there.
I mean, to limit it, it could be that 1801 becomes CC, the string of 5 houses on this side becomes LC, and then, we can talk neighborhood professional. That would be at least allow you to, it wouldn't change the neighborhood that much if something were to be developed or, go in there, but it would at least allow you flexibility to get rid of your property should you want to. I mean, maybe
I mean, if that's I don't think that's I don't know that they're all agreeable to the LC, but that makes the most sense.
Right. Well, I mean, I only say that because you're trying to.
Because the NP allows for the existing structure to be used.
Or we could do this. You want all of that to be limited commercial. Can we put the one that's right next to 1801, that one right there, also include that in the community commercial, and then the rest of them be what you said, limited commercial.
Limited commercial.
But that's not what you wanted, right?
No, you all are talking about putting a new road up through there, putting a circle at the top.
Yeah.
That's gonna downgrade the value of my property.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were the one next. It was my confusion. Yes, you're there.
So you all wanna put a circle in out there, which is gonna downgrade my property.
He is right about that.
So I've gotta do something to protect my children in the future.
Right. So you want CC?
And that's one of the things that I actually see Kurt and
Yes.
Craig's
Yes.
situation. And that's where it's like, we've got to be realists around here too.
Yeah.
That this is this entire neighborhood has some really dynamic things going on.
So can we let the next
You
gentleman
bet.
speak as well?
Keep them waiting.
Well, Benjamin Consul, I'm 1708 as well, currently residing there, Joseph Consul's son. As someone else pointed out earlier, the road is kind of narrow. That would have to probably change if somewhere were rezoned commercial with traffic. But also, two questions for clarification. Is there a laser pointer? So, that property, all that land behind the houses, what's that zone? Is that?
It's outside the.
It's outside the city limits, but
Zoned agricultural, I would think.
correct, right now.
It's a farm.
Second question is, does agricultural need a residential buffer, or can it be right up to LC? Okay.
Again, it's outside the corporate limits, so it doesn't really matter. That could still be LC on that left-hand side, and it could still be agricultural there. It doesn't need a buffer
Okay.
for it to be in the town.
Okay. Thank you. To state my position, I'm against it, but yeah.
I'm Barb Hagewood, 1808. My question, it sounded like if everybody did commercial CC on the right-hand side and everybody on the other side did the limited commercial or the MP, you could still zone it that way. And nothing would change and everybody would have to sell, right? Well,
you don't have to sell.
No, to have something big come in.
But yes, yes.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So we would all have to agree
At one
if something
time.
big was to come in. So if I decided not to sell mine, then it wouldn't go through. But it would benefit me for later if we all wanted to decide we want this to go through, and then we can have
what I
more
was
money
trying to-
for our property.
It's a huge, your property is a huge investment in your life, so you have to figure out not only what's good for it today, but 20 years down the road, because life changes, as we've seen these last few years so frequently. And it's sort of, we have to be like these genies guessing about, well, maybe this will happen, or maybe that will happen.
Well, that's
Right,
case-
but doesn't
case
that
in
make
point.
sense?
I mean, this gentleman
Mhm.
said that if you put the circle next to his house,
Right, it
so
hurts
imagine
his
if you were gonna try to buy, if he was selling a house and you were gonna roll up there, you're like, well, the circle is almost in my front yard. That's a tough sell. I mean,
But if it's commercial, it might be
Right.
good.
right, they would love that because they'd be like, sweet, we have an entrance into our business.
And that's why I think even him being there and everybody else's commercial, he could probably sell his and still do something without, affecting everybody else.
Right, it doesn't mean that, like, there's always that chance somebody, I saw this growing up, in my grandparents in Virginia, everybody decided to sell as they were getting older, as it met their needs. My bus driver from my childhood is still there in her commercially zoned place. She refuses, she's the last one, and she's perfectly fine.
Well, I think it's pretty much been said already. To me, I'm going to have an ugly traffic circle. No matter how you look at it, there's going to be people hitting it. There's going to be people tearing stuff up. We all know how Mount Airy drives around here lately. They're going to slide down over the hill, be in the ditch, and then we get to watch guys come up there and make their monthly payroll from it. At least if there's a circle, maybe 2 out of the 3 cars aren't going down the hill. I doubt it, but maybe. But then again, in the long run, that hurts my house. I've got 2 little girls I've got to look for in the future. I need something that if, say, something happens and we do have to move, hey, just because there's an ugly circle, but hey, I'm zoned commercial.
I don't think it's a question of what that triangle should be, that nugget there. It's more about what's happening on the other side of the road. That's what I'm struggling with. Because that section that butts up against 27 can be almost nothing but, I mean, it is RE now, but for usability, it can only be a community commercial. But you can't have those houses up against what's been proposed or what would be proposed in that spot. You think you hate the idea now. If we don't change that, you're really gonna hate the idea. So I'm just trying to figure out what it translates to what happens across the street. And that's the tough one. And as far as that road not being wide enough, if that ever was sold into something bigger, they would probably widen that road.
If you can't get down that road in a truck, you ain't got no business driving anyway.
Yeah, I'm just saying that you wouldn't want to have a business with that size of that road. You'd want to widen it up.
Oh, yeah.
Something next to that lot. So, that's the question.
So, yes, sir, go ahead. I know. Go ahead. We have 4 minutes. Go ahead, sir. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, again, I'm Joe Consul, 1708 South Main Street. And I'm just wondering if the property across is rezoned community commercial, is there any reason why we couldn't rezone the ones on my side of the street community commercial also? Because it seems like that would be more valuable than limited or neighborhood.
Not going to change your property taxes. It's not changing anything. It's to help you when you go to sell your house for your children.
Yeah, it just.
Okay, thank you. One more question, please. Yes, go ahead, sir. Yeah, you got to go to the microphone.
Just real quick, so why is the solution to rezone everything rather than to just not rezone? I don't understand that.
Good question.
Why change the characteristics of that neighborhood instead of just not? Anyone?
Well, first off, when someone came in and asked for a community commercial on that side, the ordinance states that we can't back community commercial up to residential. Mm-hmm. There needs to be a buffer. There needs to be either a limited commercial or a neighborhood professional before it gets to the RE.
Right, so.
Okay, so we know that 1801, that whole, there's not going to be any houses built there. First off, if you've ever seen those, look at I always laugh when I see the telephone pole because it's got ground 3/4 of the way up the telephone pole. It's across from commercial. It's next to 70. It's next to the ramp. Nobody's going to build a development of a house or even a small development there, because they wouldn't get what their money. They wouldn't get their money back if they put a residential development there.
Right, but what I'm saying is, so in order to satisfy this one request or a few requests, you have to rezone everything instead of just denying those motions. I don't really understand that.
Well, yeah, just
necessarily.
You shut this down?
Yeah, I can.
I mean, it's a legitimate question.
It is a legitimate question.
The one thing, though, the town benefits, but if somebody has a property that could be considered, that you could put commercial on, right? The town does benefit from getting taxes, and the citizens benefit from having an added amenity that would go in that space. So that's what the battle here. I mean, that's a legitimate question. Like, why change that? Because it's cascading and it's creating a problem further down. But there are other complications with that of leaving that residential. It's like unusable space for the town. It's unusable space for things that you might want in the future. You know, you can talk to people and see what was being proposed to be put there. And it just, so you have a dead piece of property in the middle of the town, and that the citizens can benefit from. And so it's not just one person's request to make them happy. It's bigger than that. It's more about utilizing the property in the town the way it needs to be utilized and properly zoned. And that's what's cascading the problem, is that it's what it should be.
So I have a different answer. I think it's a good question, and I think that there could be, most of these folks, it's like anything to upzone is like, yay, let's do it. Like commercial, limited commercial, you know. That's why I sit down here at the end. I think that there could be a compromise that you could, because you guys have a neighborhood that people seem to be ignoring. You just bought your house, but you're not the only one. There's all these residences, and just because this parcel, you know, borders some commercial on one side, it doesn't border commercial on the other side. So I don't know. I really have no idea why all of a sudden it's like, well, let's just make everything commercial, because I don't see that at all, because I think that does not take into account what people like you and the other two people who don't want it on this side. You know, I don't see that. And as much as people, and whatever's going to go, you know, if something commercial goes there, it's really not, it's not for your benefit. It's not for our benefit. It's for the benefit of the property owner who finally gets to sell the property. I don't think another convenience store or another, you know, whatever, we don't need another one. We have enough, you know, we have a Chick-fil-A, we don't need a Wawa. In fact, now that the Chick-fil-A's there, that's like added, people are going nuts over all the traffic that the Chick-fil-A added.
Okay,
it's
so-
just like, so yes, you know.
Are you finished?
There's no
Yeah.
perfect.
Madam Chair, I know it's 10:30, I know it's normal. I just got one other thing to say, just quickly. That it's also a 10-year process, so that's why it's every 10 years. So therefore, if we don't choose not to rezone anything, it limits anybody's use, even the people that want it or don't want it, for another 10 years. So we got to take that into consideration also. So I just want to make sure that you're aware that it's a 10-year, that the rezoning of this nature only happens 10 years. So that's why it's happening now. And not the urgency for it, but why we have to consider all the options.
We do that is because we know we need to see the bigger picture.
So at this point in time, we say we make every effort. Our meetings are supposed to end at 10:30. So it's now almost 10:35. And we have to hold everything over. I apologize that we have not made a decision. We're listening to everything that you've said. I don't think that we want to hurry up and make a decision on anything of this. I want to bring everybody back at the next meeting. Our next meeting is our next Planning Commission meeting is the 25th at 7 p.m. At this point, I'm going to adjourn the meeting, and we will pick this back up at our next meeting.
This will be the first agenda item that'll be
Yes,
on
it'll be the
agenda.
first agenda item, and not the last. Okay? And I appreciate all of you staying here this long.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.